Going on, everybody? Looks like we're live. I don't know how, but some people are chatting before we go live on YouTube. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but interesting. I saw Clint comment. I guess when I create the podcast, that happens, and it's weird that fix that. But I guess when I set it up, even before I hit the go live button, it's already sending information to YouTube, and they're able to comment on YouTube already. And I guess to YouTubers, it looks like it's live already. So, what's up, JJ? Good to see you, brother. Going on Appalachia After Dark. Yes, sir. You made on time this time. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Going on, Joe? Good to see you. All right, let me get this link out there. Y'all know the drill. I got to do the link thing and share that. And so this is where Clint comes in and juggles mice or something to entertain you. All right, let's see here. Takes me a minute. I should have had these open already. But what happens is if I open these, if I open these up and somebody sends me a message, I get that same message in every window I got open, and it bogs down. I shouldn't tell people that. They'll do that just to mess with me now. All right. I got the link copied. All right, give me a few minutes. Take a few minutes. I'll sit there and chat while I do it. I don't want to have dead air. I don't people see the video started and they're like, "Well, damn, he's just sitting there, man. Is this live or is it frozen? My screen frozen? Am I locked up or?" So I don't want to just sit drop jaw looking at the screen and people like, "Well, damn, what's wrong with him, man?" I think I got something wrong with me. Others, people that know me, know I do. It's funny. So let me get the links up. Got to share it to my buddies' pages. And do it right. And also give kind of a little peek at their pages, what's going on some of them. And see, some of these looks like, damn. Trying to figure out what that is on that page. It's interesting looking. Starting to get people from other countries into the groups and stuff, and that's always interesting to get, because we look at moonshining, as a folk art, basically, an old tradition. And I guess in a lot of these foreign countries, it's been a tradition for centuries, right? Longer than we've been a country. So it's really interesting to see how a lot of the other countries, do their craft and what fruits and vegetables and things they have to work with to make their shine. Or liquors, I guess I should say. A lot of different liquors. But it's really interesting. That one looked like they were making some agave tequila. Looked like some of those agave plants. Interesting how they do all that, man. It's always intrigued me. And that's one reason I guess we're having Alan Bishop on Tuesday and the 20th. And he delves a lot into the history, you know, of a lot of different distillates, and especially like absinthe and other stuff. And they do a lot of reenactments and things like that I've always thought was cool as shit. Um, so we get to talk to him about some of that stuff and pick his brain on some of these other cultures and some of the unique, not only just the unique fermentations, but the unique stills. You know, there's a lot of different stills that they've made. I've seen from everything from clay pots to tinned copper. You know, I noticed they were tinning the inside of copper, and I guess that they wanted to get a certain flavor, and so they didn't want the copper removing some of the sulfites, maybe. So they wanted them actually. And my thoughts were they were tinning the inside of it to cut down on maintenance, to cut down on the copper greening up on them. You know, because a lot of places make their stills with copper because they're easily worked. You know, they're very malleable. It's easy hammered out, soldered. You don't have to be a welder, you know, to put it together and make it work and stuff. So, you know, maybe a lot of those guys, a lot of these other countries and stuff always used copper because it's just so easily soldered up and hammered out into different shapes and stuff. So that's traditionally why a lot of them here did it. You know, you don't have to. It's safe. It's safe. It's a good metal to use for that purpose. So you don't have to worry about metal ions and getting some metal poisoning and things like that. So, you know, that, and I guess you couple that with the ease of building and soldering, you know, it's easy to see why copper, you know, became such a popular metal to use. I remember seeing. Okay, I did. Hope Mark. Hope Mark didn't have a live going. I didn't scroll down to check. All right, he didn't get. I was gonna say I didn't even. I'm just trying to go through here and get it done so quick. I didn't even have time to check. I guess he's working on that. All right. All right. Let me scroll up here and get caught up. What's going on, O'Shane? Good to see you, brother. It's Detective Patty. Almost empty. That's good. That's a good thing. Yeah, we got a little bit of snow earlier. It warmed up a little bit, though. It was colder this morning than it is now. We're in the 30s now. This morning it was low 20s, so heat wave. Awesome. I hope you left plenty of headspace for that banana coconut, man. Those bananas, man, they get quite a bit of cap growing on them, man. They huge. I underestimated my first one years ago, and it's like, wow, I had no idea. I guess about the first time everybody does bananas, you know, they overflow, and unless you have the luxury of being on here and hearing everybody talk about it, you just don't know until you do it, right? And so I'm used to leaving, ample space for a decent cap, like everything else I've done, and I hadn't heard about the cap, and it's using the airlocks and stuff, and it's one of those times when you come in and you see banana puree dripping from the ceiling where it blew through the hole and blew the airlock out and just shot out onto the ceiling and out. And yeah, that's when you test to see how good a woman you got. Yeah, how much they gonna put up with that and how mad they get. So I guess I got a pretty good woman. I just share the link to all the different groups. So they're in all the groups and stuff. but I'll put it in here just in case somebody wants to click it and go to it that way. I guess I don't know where it'll take them. I guess they'll be able to see it. But as far as link and getting people on the show, we don't do on this one. We don't do like we do a Friday shit show and American and whiskey. We invite people on, and it's more of a talk show where people just talk and not engage the viewers as much. This is all about the viewers and the questions and answers. So we don't bring people on and do all that. It's just too many people talking, too much distractions, and we want to try to focus on you all, and that's hard enough for me to do, and keep up. So I always get behind. So yep, Clint handles the chat, and I'll get on here and handle the video and the long-winded answers, and works real well. But Tuesday we're going to have Alan Bishop on, a special guest. From time to time we'll have special guests on, distillers or people in the industry, very knowledgeable people that we can sit and chat with, and y'all can ask them questions too, and just kind of help draw some attention for them, and find out what they're up to, and give them a plug. And most of them will be distillers or people that run distilleries or worked at distilleries like Clint. So people in the industry maybe, or some individuals that are craftsmen like Wayne at Ozark. We may bring him on sometime and talk about steel building or something like that. And he can ask, y'all can ask questions about building steels or something like that. We may bring on some other steel builders, and you can talk to them about the DIY, and how to do it yourself, how they got started, what equipment's essential, things like that. So that's the type of guest that we'll bring it on, things like that. But yeah, I posted it for those that want to check it out. But I mean, you're seeing it, it's the same. But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. I should do that every time, just post that up. So, but wherever people are watching it, if they can see that link, they're already watching it. So I don't know if it might help some people. We'll put it up there though. It doesn't hurt anything. How would you make a strawberry watermelon moonshine? Well, basically you'll have to get your fruit and maybe some, if you want to try to use some concentrates or something in an infuser or something like that. But basically you're just going to take watermelons and core them out and press them, get all the juice, and you're going to take strawberries and puree them up and dump them in there, and you're going to check your gravity and add some sugar or dextrose or whatever you want to add to bring up your gravity to a decent level, and add a little nutrients, and throw some yeast in there, throw your oyster shells in there, and let it work off, and strawberry watermelon might make a pretty decent wine. I'm not a big fan of watermelon. I've done watermelon. I would say, make sure it doesn't get real warm when you're doing it. It's probably not a good, warm weather fermentation. It's probably a little bit better if you do it in a cooler, because that warm climate tend to cause them to get a little mashy. Some people say use a bunch of core. Some people say use no core. My limited experience with watermelon is it's going to remain limited experience, because I really wasn't satisfied with the way it worked out. I tried 3 different kinds of watermelon. I tried the seeded, long, standard variegated watermelon. Variegated meaning different green, striped, camo looking. And then I tried the seedless, real dark green that looked like, basketball size. And then I tried the one, I guess it was a hybrid in between the both of them. It was variegated, but it was seedless. And out of all 3 of those, the dark green one turned out the best out of the 3 for just the wine. But I decided just to mix them all up to run them. I didn't have enough of each I only had like 5 gallons of each. So I just dumped them all with the same distiller and same pot, and just ran the whole 15 gallons at once. Wasn't real pleased with how it came out. I tried different methods of infusing. I tried different compounds infused. I tried the Jolly Ranchers. I tried using the watermelon Kool-Aid. I tried several different things and sweetened up some Kool-Aid and made a and none of them really worked and carried over very well. And it just, it didn't make a real good, didn't make, for me, it wasn't that great of a shine. Others we tasted we all had a competition, and some of them turned out okay, got a little bit of watermelon flavor to them, and turned out okay. But for the most part, I'd say maybe 6 out of 10 tasted about like mine did, not all that good. And about uh, a few of them kind of were okay, and one of them kind of stood out as a little better than the rest. But um, not really something I would spend the time and money to. Now, if you're getting free watermelons, it might be something worth your time and trouble. But as far as me spending, $2 or $3 per watermelon to try to get up, 20 of them, spend $60, no, that's not going to happen again. I could have bought a lot of corn, and hell, I could have got some good heirloom corn for that, and had a better run. But it's I'm not trying to discourage you, but set your expectations high. But if it doesn't turn out as well as you think, but I will say strawberries, they're surprisingly low in sugar content. When I first made strawberry wine years ago, um, I was really surprised at how much sugar I had to add to the recipe to get it up there. And I was using almost pretty much just about just strawberries. Wasn't a lot of water with it, and it's very expensive too. Fruit's expensive, so if you can find a fruit stand that um, has their fruit that's just about going bad, and they're not wanting to sell it anymore, or get one of these places that sell it, once it starts going bad, before they just take it to the dump and plow it under or whatever. Um, if you can get fruit for next to nothing, well, there's a few places that we know of that do that. Maybe a grape or two on it, the whole thing starting to get a little fuzzy. You can clean them up, wash them up real good, and maybe throw a few away, and the rest of them be okay. Phil Billy on his cantaloupe deal, he got a crap load of cantaloupes, and most of them seemed perfectly fine. The outside started to give a little, but the inside was perfectly ripe and ready and fine. Wasn't no bacteria or anything on it, mold or anything. So if you can get them that way, it's a good deal. But to try to pay for a bunch of strawberries or a bunch of watermelons and try to do that again, it's just not going to happen. But the strawberry wine turned out really good. Actually, it was real dry. It finished out real dry, and it actually, I didn't degas it, so I wanted to create like a sparkling strawberry wine champagne, and I call it strawberry champagne, but it's just basically a strawberry sparkling wine, and very no sugar content at all. It's not sweet at all. It's dry, but it still has a good strawberry flavor to it, and it's just kind of a low cal thing. And some of the gals that I get my bottles from, I'll take them a bottle of it every once in a while, and they save me wine bottles for my wine, and yeah, I'll give them a bottle of that, and they love it. A good question, and good luck with it. But just basically mix all your fruit together, add what water you want to add. The more water you add, the lower the flavor is going to be. You're going to dilute a lot of the flavors. So if you do add water, add concentrate to help that along. Some people like using just fruit juices, regular fruit juices and other fruits and stuff. But yeah, you just use your hydrometer to make your recipe for you. Everybody wants recipes, and basically, if you have a hydrometer that calculates the amount of sugars in there, you can make your own recipes, right? You just add whatever you want to ferment, a little bit of water, and start testing the gravity, and add sugar, water, syrup. Basically, you heat up water, add the sugar to it, and concentrate it, so you don't add a lot of water, right? You just add the sugar and make a syrup out of it. Or you could do the simple syrup, and invert the sugar. um, and then you can just add that until your gravity gets to where you want it to be, 1070 or 1080, something like that. And then work it off. Throw in the oyster shells, and make sure your pH is decent starting pH, and Throw in your yeast, get you a good wine yeast, and give her hell. Yeah, actually, sweet corn makes a great shine. It's just, again, the cost of the ingredients. If you farm corn, or you live next to a farmer and they just went through and harvested all their corn, and they leave half a ton of corn laying in the fields for the birds and animals to eat, hell yeah, if he'll let you go out there and pick up all the ears you can and bring them home, and either grind them up, wet. And some people use cob and all. There's no corn cob shine recipes that you can make shine out of corn cobs if you want to. It's really hazy, but yeah, it makes a great corn, but it's just expensive if you're trying to buy corn. It's like 20 cents an ear, 5 for $1 if you can find it cheap. That's a cheap price. Some places, it's like 50 cents an ear, so it can get expensive. I mean, if you got a 5-gallon pot and you're doing small batch, it's not so bad. But if you're doing 20, 50 gallons, it's, cost gets up there. And, once you do some yellow dent and do the yellow dent, and then maybe add some of this sweet corn to your thumper, or some cream corn to your thumper to help infuse some corn flavor, that goes a long way too. That helps a lot too. And that's something I would do with sweet corn, because it doesn't take so much, right? And that flavor will carry over pretty well. But yeah, it's great, but it's just expensive. It's sweet corn is expensive. Awesome. What's going on, Steven? Good to see you, brother. What's going on, Pat? Good that you're here. I'm already, God bless, I'm already 15 minutes behind. I guess that's long as right. I'd say it probably hadn't changed since the 80s when I drank it. You think so? Better? Yeah, I think there was a poll in one of the groups. I can't remember. It might have been militia, or it might have been DIY. I can't remember. But they did a poll on which legal shine do y'all like the best? That's the question I'm gonna put out there to you all. What legal shine that you bought at the stores do you all like the best, and why? Just curious. Yeah, a lot of those smoky sugar shine, I think. That sounds like a plan right there. What's going on here, Billy? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I'd heated everything up along with watermelon and everything. Just that way you kill all those bacteria and all the bird shit and all the other shit that's on there, and wild yeast and everything else. I like to heat mine up for that reason instead of using them Camden tablets. But a lot of winemakers don't. They say you shouldn't heat them up like that. It does something to you lose some of your flavor because you I guess take away some of the flavonoids and stuff that are. No, I haven't done. Well, I've done post flavoring with salted caramel, so I guess it'd be similar. But yeah, you definitely don't want to do it while it's fermenting. I know you know that, but I have done salted caramel, which works well. Finland and New Zealand, Aquavida. Yeah. Yeah, we've got some from New Zealand. We got them from all over. We got Canada, we've got the UK, we've got Ireland, New Zealand. Got from a lot of places, man. Did you? Cool, cool. There's old Tracy up too. Yeah, you could do them all together. You could just pour your moonshine, your watermelon out, and put it in a pot. You know, grind up your strawberries, dump them right in there with it. Pour you the water in there that you need to cover the fruit, cook it, and then add your sugar and work it off. Yeah, yeah, he does. Yep, we'll be talking about that as well Tuesday for sure. And they quit doing the Farmer's Almanac this year, so that's interesting. He'll be the only one with an almanac out now. But yeah, the Farmer's Almanac, this is the last year of print. I guess maybe they'll do it online, but this is going to be the last year of print for the Farmer's Almanac. Yeah, they have for many, many thousands of years. Yeah, it's that's probably a good idea to process the watermelon first, and then strain it and just get the juice, and then maybe because I don't think you want the pulp in there. I was told her best to do without the pulp because once that increases your heads, right? Once it starts working out, that's basically a cellulose. So you really don't want a lot of that getting broken down, creating kind of headsy. So yeah, probably best to work your watermelons up and strain them and get all just the juice, and then do your strawberries. Good point. Yeah, and some places like the that sulfur flavor, and that's I guess they some places like it and some people don't want it, and I guess that's why they were tinning the inside of their steels so they could carry that sulfur over. You're welcome, brother. That's what we're here for. Got any questions? Just shoot them. Yeah, like I say, you just break up all your watermelons, remove the seeds, and strain them. Just strain them in a mesh bag or brew bag or whatever, and press them out real good, and then get just the watermelon juice, and then you can break your strawberries up and puree them in a blender or whatever, and just dump them in. Because the pulp of the strawberries, you probably could add a little pectic enzyme to that because it is a meaty fruit, and help break some of that down and get a little bit more flavor. But I'm trying to find some kind of preservative-free concentrate or something to add to it to help keep a lot of the water that you add from diluting the flavors, and to help make some infusion juice. Oh hell, I thought I had them up, Clint. Sorry, brother. I set the sides before the show and forgot to turn them on. I'm glad I got somebody paying attention. I'm 20 minutes behind already. Okay, the oyster shells, they'll go in right when you pitch yeast, basically right at that time. The oyster shells serve as a buffer. Okay, during the fermentation process, organic acids are developing, and depending on the mash that you got or wash that you got, sometimes more rapidly than others. Like high sugar washes and high sugar brandies tend to create more organic acids and faster than like a grain would. So for a lot of those, especially ones you're adding sugar, whereas in the grain, you're generally not going to add sugar a lot unless you do a different recipe. Um, but the more sugar, like the tequilas, a lot of these, will create a lot of organic acids. And adding the oyster shells, which is calcium carbonate, is all it is, and boil them. You can buy them in the bags at the feed supply stores. I get their supplement for chickens and stuff to help keep their calcium up for their eggs and stuff. But just buy it and just bring them in, break them up, small chunks, and boil them, clean them up real good, and put them in a mesh bag or cheesecloth or whatever that you want, and you add them at about the same time you add the yeast. And what it will do is it won't boost the pH, right? It's not going to make your pH jump, but as our organic acids are slowly created during fermentation, this helps buffer them. The acids start eating away at this calcium carbonate, and it just helps neutralize them and buffer them. So it just helps keep your pH from crashing and your fermentation from stopping. And but when you get them, clean them up, boil them up. They say they're purified and all that, but I feel more comfortable going ahead and boil them up and clean them up real good, and you can reuse them. When you get it done, get that bag out, get you a small little pot, dump those oyster shells. I guess you probably even the cheesecloth. I just take them out, but rinse them with water real well, clean it, and then pour some water in that pot, let it cook up and boil, and then set them off to the side and pour the water off and let them dry out again, and bag them up. They'll be ready to use next time. Yeah, man, you got to watch out, especially if you got a copper steel, man. Don't let them tweakers and crackheads see that, man. They'll steal it, sell that copper in a heartbeat, man. What's going on, Mud Grips? Good to see you, brother. You got your black tea wine done. Awesome, awesome. So is I guess it's a kombucha. So did you get the SCOBY and all that going on? Awesome. Well, we definitely want to know how it's coming out. That's exciting, isn't it? When you do your first one. Now, on subsequent ones, write down what you do and try to do the same thing every time. Use your hydrometer and you know figure out exactly how much backset sugar you need to add. Check your pH. You'll know that the pH is pretty low. Maybe next time I won't add so much backset, or the gravity, it's not enough. Next time I'll need to add a little less backset and a little more sugar. So you can adjust your recipe. And take out a little bit of the grain, add a little bit of fresh grain to it, and but yeah, this spring I'm going to do a yellow label angel yeast sour mash. So I won't even have to convert every bit of corn that I add each time. I guess this koji and a lot of these enzymes that they put, a lot of this fungus and enzymes that's in the yeast naturally that they well not naturally that they put in there. So hopefully it'll continue to break down the grains each subsequent time, because I want to do more of a traditional type of sour mash where it gets fresh grains each time, right? Maybe not 100%, but it's going to be a major percentage, maybe 50, and that way have more flavor, and it probably be a little bit longer in between sour mashings, because basically the other one's mostly sugar that you're adding with a little grain. This one's not going to get any sugar. It's going to convert each time, and sour mash using that. It's going to be pretty interesting. We talked about it last week, and I've not heard of anybody doing it yet. So, I'm sure a lot of people are going to do it now and say they're the first. It was their idea, and I'm sure it's probably been done. But it's kind of an original thought we talked about. I think last week or week before. But it'd be pretty interesting. That's perfect for a first jar, man. That's right where you want to be, brother. That's dialed in, man. That's a good proof to come off that. Because by the time you get those hearts, 135, that's straight into the barrel kind of proof. That's good. Awesome, awesome. I'm slow, O'Shane. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, we're on Facebook also, but not Fieldbillies. Something happened on Fieldbillies, Fieldbilly Moonshine's Facebook page. They said one of the podcasts or one of the lives or something that was done through there had cussing or something. No, drug references on it or something. And we thought it might have been from this one, because every once in a while we'll talk about certain toxins and stuff from certain things, that you don't want to do. And like some of the apple seeds and cherry pits and things like that, that has toxins in it, and those same toxins are a lot of the same toxins that are used for drug synthesis. And so we might have touched on something like that. I don't think that was the case, because Clint and I watched our podcast over, and so did Damon and Tom and Phil, and it's like, well, there wasn't nothing in there, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, hell, that was mild compared to some of the shit show talks we have and stuff. So not really sure where it came from. I guess somebody created some malts, mass reported him, and just got, a little hate thing going on there. And so, but yeah, we're still live on Distilling 101 and on the Moonshine Militia Facebook page, but not Fillbillies. And strange that it went only to Fillbillies, not the others, because if it was true, then they would have seen it was cross posted with these other two groups, and they would have done something with that as well. But they didn't. So I don't know. It's a lot of haters out there. And Philly has got probably 500,000 followers and stuff. So he's probably some people are jealous and want to be haters, and he may have said something that tweaked one of them, and they just started mass reporting and getting all their little social justice warriors to mass report or something. But we haven't figured out. They hadn't told him, and hopefully it's just a temp ban. So we'll just have to see. But definitely gonna have to push, and because I don't, even if they bring it back up, I probably won't stream to that page again, because that's Philbilly's livelihood, right? This is what Philbilly does for a living. For me and a lot of you all, it's a hobby, but it's Philbilly is his way of life. He makes steels, he builds a lot of equipment, he gets a lot of welding kegs welded, and sells kegs, and sells grains, and and they do a lot of creation for the Vaver steels and a lot of other things. So I probably won't risk. I'd hate the fact that if it was me or something I said or did that did that or caused it. But we reviewed the podcast from the day before, that they said it was, and the day that they said it was, nobody did anything on that day. So but I did stream the day before, and we checked it and didn't see anything, but it's hard to say, Sounds good, man. I like it. I like oats. I like using oats with pine. I like having wheat in it too. So it gives it a soft, sweet smell. Gives it a soft, sweet flavor. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm not going full of watermelon anymore. I mean, I like watermelon, okay, but there's not a lot of sugar in them. It's just juice. It's just water. And maybe with strawberry or something else, it would be better. I agree with with that. Adding something else, because alone it just wasn't cutting it for me. So there'll be no more watermelon crawl. And you see them do it on the show, and they done big. The way they did on the show, there's no way that it was all that good. Nah. Yeah, I don't either, brother. Yep, they steal everything. And I got a good story. My dad had a house he was renting to this old lady for Lord since she was a kid. She'd been living there since the 70s, and her parents rented it from my grandparents. My grandparents sold it to my dad, and he had it forever. She lived there forever until she passed away, and we went in and renovated it. We basically gutted it, but in the basement there's an old cast iron heater, and I mean it was a big old cast iron, huge. And my dad was like, "Man, it's gonna take it forever. We're gonna haul that off, man. It's gonna be tough as hell to do." And I'm like, "Nah, it won't be bad at all." And I was like, "Let's just set it right over here off to the side, and just let it sit there." and somebody will come get that thing, and they'll take it to the recyclers and get them some money and stuff. And he's like, shit, nobody gonna fool with that. We left it that night. The next day we got there, it was gone. And I was like, man, they can't get much money out of that cast iron, you know. And I'm like, if these people just wanted, if they would just get a job, because they worked hard for what little money they got, you know, if they just got a job, they can make more money working less, you know, a lot less hard for what they do. But just, I don't know, you know. But yeah, they packed every bit of that old cast iron out of there, man. It must have been that truck, you know, it was rubbing the tires on the fender wells. It was heavy. It was a big one. I mean, it was huge. So yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, they'll steal everything. They'll get every damn copper, anything they can get their hands on. And I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, so you know, there's a lot of that in pill heads there, you know, and pillbillies they call them. And sad, really, you know, it's sad, it really is. Yeah, now adding liquor to watermelons, yeah, I've seen, you know, cut a hole and just, you know, dump some in there, and a little bit of rum in there or something, or moonshine in there, and have a little fruit, you know, that way, post flavored. Yeah, actually, moonshine with the post flavored with those Jolly Rancher candies is pretty good, you know. And Damon's watermelon, you know, that Sour Patch watermelon stuff he makes is good. It's all post flavored, you know, all that's good. But trying to make it out of the watermelon and no, I won't fool with that. But I will post flavor with some watermelon candies and stuff like that, because those do taste good. I like Damon's that Sour Patch shine he makes. He's got it's sweet and sour at the same time. It's pretty good. Right, and that's why they said don't use the rind or you know, any of the pulp. You know, get rid of all that, because they said if you do, it doesn't taste like watermelon. It just tastes like melon. But I think melon would have been better than what I got, right? Because it made it. I don't know. It was real warm when I did it. I did it in a warm environment. It was probably mid to upper 80s, and it probably got a little over ripened while it was fermenting, and it might have had an impact on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny. It is a time of rosing up the cheeks a little bit. I'm gonna try some more of that honey shine, Mike. Damn it. If I can get over here without burning myself on the heater. Little honey shine. Appreciate you, Mike. If you're watching. That'll definitely rosing up your cheeks a little bit. Yeah, yeah. If you can get it cheap, you know, with secondhand stuff. I tried to go to the grocery stores here and talk to them, see if I could get the fruit before they throw it away. And they're like, "Oh, we give it to the charities and stuff." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, you know." So I'm definitely not don't want to get in the way of starving people. So you know, I just have to find a place that I can buy pallets of for $1 or two. And that's what we got. There's a place in northern Indiana, right up near Illinois, and they sell a lot. And it's on the honor system. They got cameras and stuff though, but it's on the honor system, and they just post the prices, and you go up there, and ever how many pallets you want, you put your money in, show it, and put your money in the envelope, put it in there, and that's the way to do it. You know, because I guess they get it, and they perform a service for all these grocery stores and fruit stands and stuff. They just come in and load up, take it away. I guess they tell them they're slopping hogs with it, or just plowing it under, and they take it and they sell it by the pallet, and you can go in and buy shitloads of fruit for pennies on the dollar, and $1, $2, $3 a big huge pallet, right? Cases and cases of it. And yeah, it's good way to get the fruit. I've been thinking about, man, setting up a little brandy legal distillation up there right next to them, just be their best customer, right? Is whatever brandy I make for that day or mash in that day will be whatever they put out there, except watermelon. Yeah, we talked about that on here as well. I think it would probably improve it. Y'all know how you get sap from a tree, right? It's basically water. It's not real sweet, or it's basically water. But you boil all the water off, and what's left behind is a much more sweeter concentrate, right? I think that if you were to do a watermelon that way, and I didn't, I talked about it beforehand, but I procrastinated. I didn't have time to do it. I did it right a week before the farm to bottle. Or I started fermenting about 3 weeks, and it went 2 weeks, and then I distilled it a week before, and actually the week of, like 4 days prior, so it didn't even have time to air out or estrify any. But yeah, it's yeah, it takes a lot. It took a lot. I had I'm trying to think, maybe 40 watermelons for 15 gallons. It took a lot. I don't even think I had quite 15. It's probably closer to 13, maybe. I did it in 5-gallon, fermented in 5-gallon thing. So it was probably 13 gallons. But yeah, not a lot. You is transmitting. And I is still behind. R2 at 130. Awesome. Also, I want to show something somebody made for me. Check this out. Let me see that pretty well. It's hard to see the colors on here. The camera doesn't do the color. It's got some colors. You can't see the yellow corn, and I get the green stands out. But is that cool or what? The light box. Appreciate that, brother. Definitely nice. Appreciate it. Pretty cool. I have to put that up somewhere. It's got a little hanger I can hang on the wall. Pretty cool, brother. I appreciate you. What's going on, Brian? Good to see you, brother. And I'm just 7 minutes behind saying that. I hope you're still with us. Yeah, that's what you want. Get that. Yeah, go to a discount store. Don't buy those name brands. Get something cheap. Yeah, it's rather anticlimactic, isn't it? Georgia Moon Peach. Yeah, I just came up to that, man. That's something I didn't see that, but I just scrolled to that right after I had that thought, man. That's something in it. Yeah, I've just been reading everybody's comments. Yeah, buddy, I like it. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, the climax isn't. I've tried it. It's probably not the best that I've tried. I like the Georgia Moon better. I drank a lot of that young when I was younger, and but it wasn't as good as what we could get locally. That's for sure. But actually, it's a little bit cheaper. I can't do. I'm on StreamYard, Joe. I can't do all that on StreamYard. I mean, I post it to different groups, but like as far as pinning it in militia, no, I'm not gonna pin it to the top of the page. We save that for like the calendar of events and things like that. But it's posted to the group. Yeah, we've had people from all over. Yeah, we had some from Africa. We've had them from all over. What's going on, Moonshine John? I'm sorry we're so slow. I hope you're still with us, and I guess every once in a while I try to let people know every few minutes how far behind I get, and I am. But yeah, definitely good to see you on here, Moonshine in Texas. 50 years now. That's about me and you've been going at it about the same amount of time then. Oh yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, that stuff store bought, in their defense, it's a lot tougher to do huge batches like that and do it cheap, and it's more of a novelty and cheap and expensive for what it is basically. But it's not good corn liquor. Sugarland. Well, there's several different kinds. Georgia Moon, Climax. There's a lot of legal ones, but unfortunately, a lot of them are smaller craft distillers. I know a lot of where I go to a lot of the different festivals and stuff. We get a lot of craft distillers at each of them, and between here, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, all in Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, the Carolinas, of course. Quite a few craft distillers in that zone of Appalachia, right in the easy Midwest. So yeah, so yeah, it's there's quite a few of them, but they're not in all the stores, right? So it's a little tougher to find them. Yeah, watch out for the tweakers, man. They'll steal your smokes. Oh yeah, they've been distilling for many centuries, man. Thousands of years, many thousands. Yeah, yeah, man. So you probably grew up close to where I did then, at Eastern Kentucky, man, is where the coal mines are. You start getting around a lot of that coal and well water, you definitely gonna get some sulfur. Yeah, anything, cheesecloth, whatever. Cheesecloth. Get you some cheesecloth. Or I think Clint uses pantyhose. What are you talking about, man? You've been going home for a few minutes. A, I can't pin comments in StreamYard. B, I shared it to the groups I'm going to share it to. C, I posted the link. I don't know what you want me to do. And at this point, it's my show. It's quite successful the way it is. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Pinning it where. Um, I mean, obviously you're watching it, so it's working. Yeah, I feel sorry for him mostly. It's sad to see a ruined life like that. What's going on, Cave Daddy? Good to see you, brother. Really? I guess if he can't run the show, he's going to leave the show. Huh? Good to see you, brother. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know, attention maybe. I mean, it seems I like him. I like a lot of his comments and stuff, but I mean, he's trying to tell me to pin shit. You don't pin in here. And I guess he's wanting to get on the show too, and me give him a link so he can get on here and go on and on and on. This ain't a shit show, brother. That's for Friday, so you can do it on Fridays, and if you don't like that, then I don't know. I don't know if that's the same fellow that we're talking about a bunch of stuff a few weeks ago, but yeah. What's going on, Scott? You're tardy again, man. Two demerits, and I'm behind again, so that's 5 for me. And I guess old Joe Haribo was mad that I'm 20 minutes behind, so I wasn't commenting every time he posted something. What if? No, I'm not. I'm not going to run sugar on it. I'm going to keep adding grains to it. Really? It must have been temperature or something else because it's generally pretty temperature tolerant in the 70s. Actually, EC 1118 likes the high 70s, and mid 70s. So pH, I don't know what would cause it to stop. And I do know that I did some with EC 1118 that stalled, and it was just old, right? And it just, well, not so much old, just denatured. It just wasn't as effective, so I had to use more, and it picked back up and finished. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know what all that's about. Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's weed. I think Facebook's pretty tolerant for weed and stuff. It's the hard stuff, and I know it wasn't nothing that we said, so we went back and read everything, and we couldn't see anything. Yeah, I feel sorry for him. And weed's not. I don't think it's weed. We talk about weed. Hell, there's a lot of podcasts. People sit there and smoke it right live on the damn, you know, live on the screen in front of the camera. So I don't think that's the issue. I think it's just hate. I think somebody mass supported him, created some alts, or got some little social justice warriors to support him. Most likely alts, and reported it from 5 or 6 people, and they just banned it out of reflex because that's just how they do. But hopefully it's just temp. And hopefully he can post his videos. It may be just his lives that he can't do, but still, hopefully it's just a temp thing. Yeah, yeah. The infusion thing is definitely the way to go. I've tasted a lot of the brandies that have been infused, and it adds a lot of flavor. It helps a lot. Yeah, I used to smoke it too, and I've kind of quit here recently. I've smoked within the past year, but Last 6 months, I've slowed down and about quit. It's gotten to the point where it's doesn't make me feel good anymore. It kind of nauseates me and stuff. So if it's not gonna make you feel good, ain't no use doing it, right? So yeah, I pretty much quit smoking and into my breathing. Starting to get old, and I want to live to be older. So I'd probably do some edibles or something like that. If it didn't make me sick, I'd try a little bit at a time and see how that worked. But smoking just doesn't make me feel good anymore. No, we're not going to bring up vinegar without you, brother. But yeah, we did talk about a SCOBY and how that is similar to mother of vinegar. It looks similar, like the gelatinous mass that it is. Yeah. Now look at them, man. They're $3 on sale, $5 or $6 each. Man, it's crazy. Oh, it definitely helped. It definitely helped. Or if you wanted to, you could put, your copper mesh in that sight glass, and in the tube above it, the spool above it, put your crush up, some peach candy and rock candy or whatever, and just drop it in there and let the hot vapors go over it and pick up the flavor, and it'll melt it in no time, and it'll sit there and be mashed into that copper, getting infused. Works. I did that with some of the Jolly Ranchers in my inline infuser, but it just didn't pick up a lot of the flavor, even then. So I'm gonna build me some infusion. I'm gonna build me some basically copper jar rigs. Instead of jars, it's going to be just small little copper thumpers, right? The size of a half gallon, 3/4 of a gallon, maybe. Good to see you, Foxtrot. Yeah, I'm all right. Some days are better than others, brother. But we're still vertical. And I'm just 13 minutes by now. I'm getting caught up. Yeah, it is. Thanks to Hellbilly. That's a nice light box. It sure is. I appreciate it, brother. I can't believe I turned that on and did that right before I read his post. What's going on, Toby? Good to see you, brother. Ain't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing all right, brother. There's a good liquor maker right there. Toby makes some good shit, brother. He makes some damn good corn liquor and honey liquor. A lot of it too. Yeah, Toby does a fine job. Yeah, he's a pretty good fella. I know his dad gets on here and watches us sometimes too. Victor, good people. All right, good question. Question: worm versus condition. I assume you're talking about it like a shotgun. Um, there he is. A worm is definitely the way to go. In a shotgun condenser, it's condensed very rapidly, which isn't necessarily the best thing. Whereas in a copper condenser, it's more of a slow process. Also, you get the benefit of the copper removing the sulfurs, but it seems to be a little slower process. Also, you have the benefit of a larger reservoir in a flake or barrel or whatever you want to call it. We called it a flake back in the day. But the container that you put the worm in, so you have a larger reservoir, which tends to um, maintain a certain temperature better than a shotgun condenser, and easier to maintain that temperature, whereas a shotgun condenser is constant in and out, constant in and out, and you have to, you know, adjust it. Space wise though, you know, the shotgun condenser is very, you know, compact and easy to use in a small area. And you can use water from a large reservoir to feed into your shotgun, so you know that doesn't have to be as big a problem if you do that. But if you don't, then you know it's going to be a little bit tougher. Now, as far as a Liebig, you know, I've never been a real big fan of the Liebigs. They're very easy to make, and they work. But I definitely prefer a shotgun or a worm. Probably worm would be the best. Um, and if you do decide to do a worm, just buy a coil, buy a copper that's already coiled up. Everybody's, oh, it's soft. It doesn't matter. You know, we're not, you know, putting a lot of PSI on it, so it's not withstanding a lot of pressure. It's already pre-coiled for you, so it's easy to do. You don't have to worry about kinking it and ruining it and all this shit. And it's just so much more beneficial, you know, and easier. And just get that 5/8, you know, coil, and it's so easy to do. And just, you know, it's already coiled up for you, and you don't have to worry about packing it with sand and, you know, or air and all these different things people do, or force water into them and put it under pressure and cap the end off and put it under pressure to help keep it from kinking. You know, I've heard so many different things that they do to try to, you know, do that. But yeah, a worm is definitely preferable but it's more expensive and it takes up more space. You have to have room for that big barrel and flake. Whereas, you know, a lot of people that are doing, you know, stovetop type distilling, or, you know, tight quarters type distilling, um, that don't have, you know, the benefit of an area that they can do that in, or worry about, you know, leaking or dealing with a lot of volume of stuff, then, you know, you can use a little pond pump in a cooler, or you can go directly from, you know, a sink with a little pump into your condenser and then out. So, um, I would say it would, you know, it's definitely depend on uh, on that. But yeah, I prefer a worm if you got the room and the money to get it. Yeah, it's there. Condenser. I'm pretty sure you meant shotgun condenser and Liebig, you know, as a condenser. But I would say that the worm's probably the best. Shotgun condenser second, especially if it's a copper shotgun condenser, because then you have the benefit of moving the sulfites. But yeah, I'm not real fond of the Liebigs. You know, but they work and they're simple and they're great for that. Yeah, maybe be able to get some of that Justin Meredith, some of that taco. Man, he sent me some taco shine. It's awesome. Really good stuff. Yeah, I like old Justin. He's a good fella. Good guy. Great guy. Yeah, he's a really good guy. Yeah, I think he's talking about a Liebig. Um, yeah, the Liebigs, you know, I'm not real fond of, simply because of the speed that it has to condense at. It's really fast. It's probably the fastest, and the faster you condense, the generally the lower the temperature is going to have to be. And I mean, it works, and it works in a pinch, and it's simple. If it's something that you're just putting together and you're complete DIY and can't afford the worm, or don't have room for the flake in the barrel, I mean, it all works, you know. But worm's probably the best way to go. Shotgun second, Liebig being the third. Are you getting lit up like that sign? Yeah, you got lit up. That's the sign lit. I'm about to get lit. Somebody didn't say shots. They should have. Tell you what, Somebody worn the letters off this jar. They've used a lot. Mike gave me. I guess he's been using this jar a lot, man. Right there where you put your finger, they've worn the ALL off a ball. That's some use there, man. $1.10. Oh, are you gonna save your tails and run it all the way down? You don't have nothing to apologize for. No, it's fine. I knew what you meant though. I mean, um, that's the three basic types: is a shotgun condenser, a Liebig condenser, and then the worm, coil worm. But you're good. No need to apologize, brother. There ain't no silly questions here or bad questions. Ain't no stupid questions, man. And that's the only way we learn, right? Is by asking questions and reading. What's going on, brother? Good to see you, Jim. I wonder what's causing it to stall. I mean, there's got to be something, temperature, pH, or maybe maybe your hydrometer is seeing fermentable sugars that isn't fermentable, right? I mean, or I'm sorry, seeing sugars that isn't fermentable. That's a possibility. A lot of people say, "Oh, it stalled," and I'm like, "Well, what was it?" And they're like, "Oh, it's molasses." And I'm like, "What's it stalled at?" And at 1.1, it won't. I can't get finished. And it's like, well, we're corn liquor. A lot of times they don't get a good conversion, and it still shows those complex sugars in there because the hydrometer doesn't know whether they're fermentable or not, right? So the hydrometer is showing sugars, but it just won't ferment anymore, and sometimes you just get unfermentable sugars, and that's. Yeah, I can't. Man, I used to smoke it, fairly regularly. But when it gets to the point where it doesn't make you feel good, it's like, why do it? And I don't know if it's just the strength of the stuff today, or just me getting older, or other, health issues that are causing it. But it just doesn't make me feel good anymore, man. It kind of makes me nauseous, nervous, it upsets my stomach, and I ain't no use in buying it and paying that money and going through all the trouble, and if it don't make you feel good. And smoking it, I can tell the next day after I smoke it, my little harder breathing, a little chest, and so it's just, we get to a certain age where it's like, I want to see my child grow up a little bit more, so I might have to give it up. 2 Pines. 2 Pines makes some pretty good stuff. Have you heard of that 2 Pines? You probably have, but you probably have that 2 Pines distiller. I think they're out of Kansas, and they gave us a piece. Let me go see get that bottle. I think it's in here. All right. That's my showing. It's not 2 Pines, it's Tall Pines. Peach brandy. They make pretty good peach brandy. Had to have me a little sippy sip, man. I went all the way in there. Trouble getting it. I'll get yourself up breaking the cord. But met these guys in Arkansas. And they make a good peach. Damn good peach. post. It's got some post flavor, but real good. Kind of tastes like my Olive Nation peach. So it might have gotten post flavored with that. But they're out of Missouri, not Kansas. This outfit's out of Missouri. They were down there in Arkansas last year. They weren't there this year. Well, in 2025, but that was from 2024 when they were there. And that was yeah, that was their first. They've been going since 2014, so I guess that's their 10-year anniversary right there. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I saw 2 pines. I was like, yeah, it's tall pines. This one. Yeah, like old Willie, man. I don't see how they do it, man. It hurts my lungs anymore, man. I wake up next day and it's a little harder to breathe. Nah. I smoked cigarettes for a long time too, since I was a kid. I started everything at about 12, 13. You know, I started shining, smoking, and doing everything. So everything. Same with me. You know, I was making shine at 13 and growing weed and smoking cigarettes and cigars. Started smoking. Basically, me and my buddies would fish on the riverbank and on the Big Sandy and sit there and fish. And damn mosquitoes would eat us up, man. So we found that as long as there was smoke around, they wouldn't bother us. So we started just puffing on cigars, you know, and Swisher Sweets and regular cigars. We wouldn't smoke them. We'd just sit there and keep them going and keep that smoke around us, you know. And next thing you know, we're inhaling, and then next thing you know, we're all smoking and fishing and drinking. Yeah, it is. Post flavor is the only way to go. And it saves so much. It definitely is so much more flavorful. And you know, people don't mind anymore like they used to. You know, back in the day, you know, it was moonshine heresy to post flavor anything. You know, and a lot of people look down on the town mountain shiner because he put peaches and grapes in his. But he made a decent shine. It wasn't too headsy or anything. He made decent cuts and he put peach or grapes in it. So if I wasn't making it, I would drink his. Yeah, more of that couch crushing indica. Oh, Miss Lisa, good to see you. Hope you're having a good weekend. Yeah, I wasn't catching a good buzz anymore, Mike. I just wasn't making me feel good. Every once in a while, you know, I'd do a little bit, and I was doing like little one hitters, right? Little teeny bats, one hits, and sometimes, you know, I'd get a little bit okay off of it, but after I did a couple few of them, it's just, you know, I was sick and just if it don't make you feel good, ain't no use doing it. Yeah, well, you know, one of those auto wrecks. Aged wheated bourbon. That sounds good to me. Right up my alley. Hope you're staying warm up there. Yeah, we got a little bit of snow. Most of it's melted off. It was pretty cold last night. It got in the 20s, low 20s last night, which isn't that cold for you guys, but we back up in the 30s today. That's good, brother. Yeah, we all do. You know, I used to like that, that indica jaw drop couch cushion kind of stuff, man. Just sit there and smoke it. Next thing you know is 30 minutes later, and it's like, what did I have done the last half hour, Hybrid. Yeah, me too, Victor. I, if it don't make you feel good, ain't no use in doing it. This stuff they got these days, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to sound like a wimp or anything, but it's just too damn strong, man. It's not the same. It's not the same. Yeah, that's funny shit, Mike. Yeah, it's a shame, man. It's a shame to see them, and it's on the street everywhere, man. It's just all over a lot of these bigger cities. Um, it's just everywhere, man. It's sad to see, and they get mad about people going into these parks and cleaning them up, and they're, oh, the children can't play there anymore. There ain't no kids playing in these parks where they just went into. So there's a lot of crazy stuff. I don't want to I don't want to go down that alley. But yeah, also with the weed and stuff, you got to be careful these days. They found that there's a lot of Chinese grow places that are growing weed, and I hate to say this about it, but it's hard telling what they put in there, because they've caught them with these labs over here and making a lot of toxic stuff and some they caught a shipment or something coming in from China to some researcher in I think it's Michigan or Illinois somewhere, I can't remember, Michigan maybe, and and it was some kind of fungus or something that would take out major amounts of crops, and it was really bad, and if it got out, it would destroy lots of crops, and it spreads, and it creates a big huge problem, right? um, Good thing that got caught and didn't get out, and they trying to hurt our food supply, and they shipping over this fentanyl. Basically, that's chemical warfare as far as I'm concerned. Them shipping all that shit over here and putting them and getting it put in the drugs that gets shipped into here. So, and that's the way they're seeing it. That's chemical warfare, and they're starting to treat it that way as they should. And I'm glad. But yeah, it's basically what it is. They're just killing us without us. Look how many hundreds of thousands of people died of fentanyl. A lot more than died from plane crashing into the towers. We go to war over that, but hundreds of thousands of people get killed from fentanyl and we don't do nothing. We're being systematically eliminated with that shit, and it's got to stop. You haven't? Well, I mean, if you're using gas, it gets a little bit expensive to continuously run, run, run. There is a cost benefit ratio that you kind of exceed when you get to a certain point, right? But there's also, it's crazy to stop at 80 proof, because that's what you get in a bottle off the shelf is 80 proof. Think about that. There's a lot of liquor in that back set that you're tossing. That's 80 proof back set. There's a lot of liquor coming out that, well, probably not 80 proof back set, but there's 80 proof coming off there. So run that shit down and put it in your thumper or put it in your pot next time before you run. You'll get a lot of increased production, and it's easy to separate because it's in with the oils, and it's pretty easy to separate with those heavier oils and those fusel oils than it is with higher volatiles in your head. So it's worth keeping if you can. If you run an electric, especially, it's definitely pays off. Right, right. Very clean. Right. So what was your starting gravity, JJ? Yeah, 71B is great for ciders and honey meads and all that. 71 and 4B both. Yeah, I bought everything. I've well except a box. I got to buy me a box to mount everything into, and I'm gonna do it. I noticed on Moonshine Militia somebody was posting questions about the wiring and stuff, and I will say if you're not sure about this, it you definitely want to get somebody to help you. You know, there's a lot of good DIY things, and then there's some that you definitely want to consult with a professional in. Um, I will say they sell a lot of these controllers and they say 220. And in Europe, 220s run with one wire, right? So they got a 3-wire, they got a 220 hot, a neutral, and a ground, right? That's the way it's done in Europe. Here, we have 110 on one line, neutral, and a ground if it's 110. 220 is run with two 120s and a ground, right? And sometimes a neutral, depending on how old it is. But so it's different. So a lot of people get these controllers that's set for 220, but it's set for 220 on one wire, and we don't have that here. So be sure what you're ordering, because I ran into that when I was ordering mine, and there's a lot of them out there that are one wire 220 that don't work here. So know what you're getting and know what you're doing if you're gonna start fooling with that 220, and but you can save a little bit of money if you can do it yourself. But if you don't, at least have somebody that's an electrician help you, or take it to somebody, or just buy one from somebody that does them. It's not just refining; it's selective breeding, and they've bred a lot of chemicals out of it, Mike. Yeah, it's the THC content's definitely gone up. You know, it's the stuff we smoked in the 70s was probably 6-7%, and the Hawaiian and some of the stuff that was premium was like 12 to 16, and by today's standard, that's nothing. But they've also selectively bred it for higher THC content. The Dutch, you know, in the Netherlands did a lot of this. You know, when they created the Northern Lights and the Skunk #1 and all this, and so they did a lot of selective breeding and hybridization, and it changed a lot. And they took a lot of chemicals out that used to be in there, trying to focus primarily on the THC, and it's changed things. But yeah, it's true that the weed's definitely stronger. In fact, I mean, I've smoked it since probably let's see, early to mid 70s till this past year. I've watched it increase over time. It definitely has. Yeah, it's a shame, man. Have to deal with them tweakers. And it's even worse if you got a family. You know, it's just you, whatever, I can handle them. But you know, you have to worry about your kids around them, and like we're talking about in the parks and stuff. Freaking needles laying around everywhere. What's going on, Michael? Hippie crack. This don't make me feel good anymore, brother. I've smoked it for 50 years, right at 50 years, and I just doesn't make me feel good anymore. And the smoking part of it. If I can eat edibles and it makes me feel good, I'll do that. But I just, with my chest and lungs, I just can't. Not going to smoke much anymore. What's going on, DJ? Good to see you, brother. Got some chilly going. It's definitely chilly weather. It is a lot. As long as you can maintain that temperature in a cooler or something like that, and not have to constantly stir and worry about scorching and stuff, it's night and day, man. But it maintaining that temperature is the tough part, and keeping a little bit of that hot water to the side to keep adding to it to keep it up to temp. It's a lot less stress and it's a lot less work. It's and you get good conversion and make good liquor. So yeah, I don't see me cooking much anymore. I might cook when I do the sour mash method. I might when I supplement, I'll probably have a little pot and I might cook some of that up a little bit and in a small pot because I won't be risking much. And it's going to be cracked corn or yellow dent. Yeah, it's and once you get it down, and like I say, if you get it in a big ass cooler where you don't have to worry about the temp dropping so much so fast, and it's easier to maintain. Oh yeah, it's definitely the way to go. And keep a little bit of that hot water, to maintain if you're going to add some malt or malted grains or other grains when it gets to 155, 150. You can save a little bit of that hot water to keep it at 155, 150 for those as well. But yeah, it's much less worrisome about worrying about scorching it for sure. Yeah, I thought I was about to get caught up, and then makes your hair hurt and your teeth itch. Well, running on down. Shit, yeah, man. There's a lot of good ethanol left, man, in those tails. I mean, don't mix it with the other. Just run it to a bucket and just save it. I mean, you don't have to worry about cuts. You can crank the heat up and blast your way through it and strip it. Strip off the tails. Um, and technically, that's about the only stripping I do is when I just strip the tails off, crank up heat, and get through it. Yeah, there's a lot of good liquor, and the next time when you add it to that pot, you'll see a pretty 20% increase in your production, which is another jar or two, depending on how big. Starting cider, that's good. Now cinnamon, I will say the yeast don't like it. Yeast is kind of or cinnamon is kind of an antiseptic, antibiotic kind of property, kind of like what honey has in it too. Even honey, has some antibiotic properties and kind of resists some of the funguses and stuff. So D47 probably be really good yeast for it. But yeah, a lot of times when people add cinnamon and other things like that, if you're adding it right, I would definitely want to do that towards the end of fermentation than the beginning. But if it's already in there, see how it works. I mean, if it creates some off flavors and does off, then it's probably because of cinnamon. And again, it might work just fine with that D47. Yeah, that's how I got started. It's a little different for sure. What's going on, Mr. Pollen? Palin? Did y'all make it home safely through all that snow? Yeah. Yep. 2 hours out of DC. 45 minutes by chopper. Well, hopefully they don't have to lifeline your ass out of there. That's one thing, used to when you're younger. I wanted to live in the country, and my ex wanted to live in the city. I wanted to get a farm, and she wanted to get a house in the city in a good school district for her daughter. So she kind of won that argument, and I wished I'd have had me a farm. But now you start getting older, and it's like, maybe living next you know, just a few miles down the road from the hospital ain't a bad thing. You know, walking distance to the store and real close to convenient to everything ain't such a bad thing. After I was talking to my uncle yesterday, before yesterday, and he's 83, and he's definitely glad that he's living in the city and close to everything. He's talking about driving and shit. He's like, I can't keep my tires off the curbs anymore. Taking turns too sharp and parking, nailing the curb. He's like, damn, I can't drive anymore. Yeah, yeah, it's very cheap. It's a very cheap fuel, and it's cheap to run your tails out. That's when, you know, it's very cheap and easy to run your tail out. Yeah, the wood fire, you know, you want to use coal, so your wood fire, you know, you when it's roaring and going, you don't even have your still on there. You know, if you know what you're doing, you basically, when it starts taming down into coals, that's when you put, you know, when you put the steel over it, and then you fill it up, and then just maintain it with a fresh little, well, not a log, but split wood. Just put a piece of fresh in there and keep it going, you know. But you can tell by looking at a steel, if it's all black and stuff, it wasn't run right. And it should be really hot by the time you put that on there. And those coals, it's like beans don't burn on the grill, and shine it shine cooks pretty well over wood, but you have to regulate your coals, and rake them in and out as need be as it rolls, and just watch you drip. You know, that's where you really learn watching you drip, is with the fire. You know, it comes out too fast, you rake some coals out, and it slows down to a slow drip. You have to push them back in. Yeah, indica's nighttime medicine. Sativas for wake and bake. This is the Shine Channel. That's right. Yeah, there is a lot of the CDB type based stuff, and you know, I've smoked some of that, and it'll get you stoned for like 30 minutes, and then it just goes away. It's kind of doesn't have that hang power that's the good stuff. You're not seeing Clint's comments? Holy smoly, what's going on here? Clint's on YouTube. You should be able to see him. May have to look at the screen, DJ. I guess it should. Going on, COVID bud, fungus 19. I'd say you might have some in a barrel. I'm getting fixed to put some of mine in a barrel. I must have missed. I said, you're fine. Yeah, barrel house won't hurt a thing. These rick houses get down to below freezing, won't hurt it. Won't hurt a thing. In fact, it's part of the process, right? Yeah, that liquor ain't gonna freeze. It won't hurt a thing. Yeah, there ain't much to work with. Mostly oils. Yeah, I mean, as far as saving it, John, just you can run it all the way down to the Sweetwater, but just save it to run the next time, and you can. It's easy to separate that ethanol from those fusel oils, and there's a lot of alcohol left in a lot of those tails. So if I can, I don't do it every time. I know, it gets tough, and you're sitting 6 hours, and you're got all the way through your hearts. Now you in your tails in 6 hours. You're looking at, or 4 to 6. You're looking at another few hours to run the rest of it out. Um, I can see where some people might not want to do that. Man, that peach, I burped that peach out. That's a strong flavor. I have to stick that honey. But yeah, I get it. I've dumped it many times. Just don't have the time. But if you're running on electric, um, I'm not saying just crank up the heat and leave it and walk away, but you don't have to tend it as much. Just keep your condenser going and just let it run off. You don't have to worry about cuts or anything. Just let it run off into a bucket or something, and you'll be ready to just add that to the next batch. And it'll increase your production a lot. You'll be surprised, instead of, I don't know how big your steels are, but instead of getting 4 quarts or 8 quarts, you'll get 6 quarts or 12. It definitely helps. Oh Lord, JJ, that's why you're stalling. I'd say your yeast not able to. Your yeast, it's getting more alcohol than what your yeast can handle, maybe. Yeah, that's more alcohol than your yeast may be able to handle. Even EC 1118, I think, can go to 18%. So, I don't know if they, in even a turbo, I don't think could get any much. Yeah, I'd say that's what it is. That's a lot, bro. Yeah, I'd cut that. I'd try to cut that back a little bit for sure. Cool. Yeah, DJ, we were talking earlier about how in the 70s, the THC content was like 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, maybe up to 16 and some of the best of the weeds, and how they selectively bred it, and it lost some of the compounds and just so they could increase the THC content. I think they lost a lot of other things that maybe made you feel good. I don't know. I agree with John. I think it's, well, for some, I guess if you're Willie Nelson or somebody, it's just fine. But for me, it's gotten to the point where it's too strong for me. I mean, for medicine, probably perfectly fine to treat people. It's just like milligrams of medicine. You got 100, 200, 500, based on the ailments, and I need the 100. And some people might need that 500, but cool, cool. Yeah, I'm getting ready to put mine together. I'm using a SCR, and I think mine's 5,500 watt. I'm running a keg. Damn, everybody's putting away tonight. Damn, me Mississippi sip again. I'm only 16 minutes time now. But I'll try to catch up, letting everybody know I ain't gonna get to your comment until a few minutes, but I'm trying. I don't know about a conversation. I think there's quite a few people in there that smoked a little weed in their day. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean it's been growing for ages and ages and ages, but the way that they're crossbreeding and selectively breeding, it's kind of like corn. Perfect example. Corn used to be a grass seed, right? Corn was just a was you know, and then they selectively bred it each time that had the bigger, more and more condensed, and then it became like the little mini corns, right? The little miniature little corns that we get, and then they selectively kept selectively breeding it until now. It's freaking cob, and it's totally different than it was without any genetic, modifications other than selective breeding. So they were genetically manipulating it without, going in and changing the splicing genes or anything like that. But that's kind of what they did with weed. By selective breeding, they changed it, and it took certain compounds out, and with the pure focus of buzz and THC being the operative thing. There wasn't a lot of research done on it back in the day when they were doing that, and they're finding out that there's a lot more in there that gave you the buzz than just the THC, and now they're finding THCA and all the different compounds, and it's becoming more of a science because um, it's being more accepted as a medicine now, and now that it's being reclassified, as something that's medicinal. Hopefully, there'll be more and more research done on it, and they can synthesize some beneficial drugs that'll help a lot of people. And there's no doubt that it's going to help patients with a lot of seizures and issues like that. So I look for good things to come from it. It's been around a long time. Our bodies have natural receptors to it in our brains, and I mean they're there for a reason. So you know. Right. Yeah, exactly, Clint. I think that I agree, and just like CDB, it's kind of, getting that out of it. And there's so many compounds though. There's thousands and thousands of compounds. It's an extremely complex thing. And what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of the drugs that we use, and I'm not talking about street drugs, I'm talking about a lot of the prescription drugs that we use these days either had a basis from plants or still are, or they're synthesized, and synthetically created to mimic, that of the plant because it's just not feasible to farm that plant and get that medicine from that plant. But I mean, pharmaceutical companies still send, botanists out into the, Amazon and into Africa, all over the world, and subtropics and areas looking for specific plants and getting with ancient cultures and using some of their holistic medicine and taking it back to the lab and seeing what makes it work. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. No, I've never tried that. Be interesting. I have tried the Delta weed, and it seemed like it had a pretty good little buzz for just a short time and then went away. Yeah, you can actually, the old sour mash method. A lot of people are stuck on the UJSSM, Uncle Jesse's simple sour mash. So a lot of people, don't realize that the old sour mash was basically mashing in fresh every time, except you use back set and use that back set to bring in the acidity and the flavor of the last of the last ferment. And so because it's concentrated, once you take a lot of water and the alcohol off that back set, then it concentrates the flavor, right? So it's like if you had a juice, for example, and you took all the water out of the juice, you get concentrated flavored juice, right? It's the same thing with your back set, but don't ever drink it because I have, and it taste will stay on your tongue for a day or two, man. It's terrible. But the true sour mash method was to mash in each time fresh, but you would just use that back set from the last one to carry it over, right? And they don't do that these days. They just use back set, the old spent grains, and add some sugar to it, and it's basically making a sugar wash with spent grains. And well, maybe they're not totally spent, so you get some flavor out of it for a few generations, and then it's totally spent and it's not contributing anything. So I kind of made a little modified version of that where you just take out a certain percentage of your grains each time and add fresh cooked ready grains back, and it's kind of a in the middle between the two. That way you can keep that flavor profile up and perpetuate it, at the same time, with the simple sour method. So kind of in between, and that works well too. It works well. If you do the Uncle Jesse's UJSSM, after about the fifth or sixth generation, it just gets to where it's just basically a sugar sound. You're not even tasting the grains anymore, and it's very noticeable. A lot of people are like, yeah, it's just not the same as it was. But if you'd like take 10% out each time and just add fresh cooked grains in on top of that, and then add your sugar, whatever, and make a thin mash with it, don't necessarily have to convert it, but you have that fresh corn going in each time, 10%. It keeps that corn profile up, that corn flavor profile up, and it makes decent. It's not as good as just pure converted grains every time, or the old fashioned sour mash method, but it's a lot more economical and simple to do, and everybody's looking for simplicity and ease and ways to make it easier, but it is a little bit hotter, and it's not a true sour mash. Um, yeah, I have, and it'll light you up. It's 190 proof, and it's pure grain. It's basically a pure grain, and it'll parch you. It's dangerous actually. Um, Alcohol is hygroscopic, and what happens is when it touches the flesh inside your mouth, it absorbs all the moisture out of your tongue and out of your throat, and it'll parch you, man. It's actually hazardous to do. But yeah, I've drank some pure grain before. Um, Off the still, generally not always 95%. You don't want that unless you're making a vodka. So most of the time it's coming off the still 140, 50, 60. I've recently done up to 187 proof, and that's about as high as I want to go. But it's not good. It's not good for you, and it's not good flavor. It's nothing. And it'll parch your throat if you drink. Everclear, a shot of Everclear is the same thing. It's pure grain alcohol, and it's that proof. And some states you can't even buy it that way because it is hazardous, and it's hard on your liver, and it's hard on your tongue and throat and everything. It's just not good. It's something we do when we're young and dumb and want to prove how tough we are. But after we do it, it's like, wow, that's stupid. I'll never do that again. But yeah, everybody's got to try it once. It's probably that synthetic stuff or that Chinese shit. But probably synthetic, you know, the synthetic weeds, that's the only weed that people's ever died from, the synthetic weed. Yeah, that's what we're all about, brother. Trying to make it safe, you know, trying to keep it safe for everybody. And that's our primary concern. That's pretty high. But Scott, when you do yours, do you still have your spent grains in there, or you just don't you dump those and just carry over the back set and add sugar? And because basically with mine, I leave all the old spent grains, the yeast bed, the whole works in there, and I'll scoop out 10%, sparge it, you know, to get all the yeast and dead yeast and all that off of it, and just pull off 10% of the grain and add 10% back, and then with some back set and sugar. And yeah, I mean, you could cook up some more rye or whatever if you wanted to fresh each time to help keep that flavor, you know, profile more concentrated, and do it the same way, exact same way every time, and it'll be consistent. You know, it'll after a couple few generations, it'll be perfectly consistent every time, and that's what you want. And you can get past the fifth, sixth generation. You can do it all summer long. Yeah, tails do. They'll hold that flavor because the reason is these flavonoids and polyphenols and all these flavors tend to bond to water much more readily than they bond to alcohol, right? And as you distill off more of the alcohol, you have more of the water left in behind. And when you get to the tails, of course, it's lower proof because there's less alcohol in there and there's more water and lower volatile distillates that have a boiling point at or about what water is, or lower or less than what you're running. And of course, we've looked at the chart, and let's see, let me find that chart here real quick. Right. So we know that alcohol is an azeotrope, alcohol and water, and most of the compounds are azeotropic. So as it gets, you know, less and less alcohol, this left column is the percent of alcohol, and this right column is percent of water. Let me move that out of the way so you can see it a little better and that. So this is the concentration of the ethanol. This is the boiling point on the left. So as our concentration, you can look at this both ways. Once your percent of alcohol is lower, um, your temperature to boil off increases. That's because you're getting closer and closer to just all water, right? So when you get to that point, you're getting a lot of oils, and you're getting away from your higher volatiles that have already been pretty much cooked off, and you're getting into your oils, and the oils and the water are what really carry that flavor. So once you save those tails and then rerun them, um, it's easy to get that ethanol off with some of that good flavor stay with it, you know. Also, when you're doing cuts, if you tend to sneak a little beyond the hearts into the tails, you can get some of that flavor uh, to help contribute. And just a touch of the higher end with some of those oils from the lower end estrify over time, and the acids and the oils. And we'll talk about that when Alan gets here a little bit more in depth and get a little bit more advanced with it. Talk about, how all that works and esterification. But it's very interesting, and yeah, most of your flavor will be at the end, and there's a lot of flavor, concentrated flavor in that actual back set because you've distilled all the alcohol off and you've distilled a lot of the water off as well, and what you're left with is concentrated flavors. So yeah, I've imploded. It didn't explode; it imploded, and you can explode a steel, but the dangers from turning off the temperature is that it gets so cool and so fast, and it doesn't have the outside and inside temperature changes so much that it just draws up and it actually implodes. And it's easy to duplicate that. You can get a steel drum. It's kind of dangerous, so stay back when you do it. But you can get a steel drum and put it on, put a little water in the bottom, put it about a third of the way up and boil water in it and cook it off and let that water steam off and get it good and hot, get that barrel good and hot, and then turn off the fire and take a garden hose with real cold water and spray over it with a mist. That steel drum will draw right up, man. It's crazy. It's wild, but it's actually an implosion. So it's exploding inward, right? But yeah, steel explosions also happen, and a lot of times that's where thumpers get clogged. So sometimes people will put stuff in there to infuse. I recommend cream corn, but I always recommend somebody pureeing it, running a blender, you know, make sure all the kernels are up. What happens a lot of times is when people put that in the thumpers and run it, the thumpers start filling up with water and you're having a second distillation going on in that thumper, so it's boiling, it's puking, and it's foaming up a little bit. And sometimes, if you don't keep up with it, the water level can keep rising in there because it's taking the water off and putting the alcohol out, and it rises. It gets to where your inlet, your outlet going to your worm gets close to the surface, and all of a sudden some of these corn kernels pop up. You got a 3/8 inch copper line, which is also about the size of a couple of corn kernels, and they'll get in there, or a grape will get in there. If you got a little bit half inch, a grape will fit right in there, or a cherry, or whatever you're infusing with, and it'll clog it, and it'll build up pressure, and it'll try to push it along it, and it only has so far to go. And as the temperature increases, the pressure increases. As the pressure increases, the temperature increases, and and it just gets to the point where it will blow. So where people say that they won't explode, and they're not dangerous, don't listen to those people because they don't know what they're talking about. It has happened and it will. I mean, they look at Mythbusters, they did an episode on it, and if a steel has a leak, you're in an enclosed room and you got alcohol vapors, leaking off, and hot alcohol vapors mixed with the right, concentrations of air. You get the right fuel air mix, boom. Yeah, it happens. There's been a lot of people injured and killed from it. Not too long ago, I saw a fire and some deaths from people that had a pretty good size steel in the storage container. And this is about 4, 5, 6 years ago, and maybe 7. Been a little bit, but they were running it in a enclosed container, right? They're closing it and all hidden and stuff, and hiding out, and had their lights in there and running shining there. And I guess they had a leak, didn't know it, and I guess the right air fuel combination got together, and they were using open flame, and boom, blew the doors off and killed the guys inside there. So it does happen. That's why we try to teach safe practices, and it's not good to get drunk while you're sample too much coming off the steel while you're distilling. You want to you have to do your cuts, but at the same time, you got to keep your wits about you so everything's safe. And anything that ever happens, first thing you do, cut the fuel off, cut the electric off, cut the gas off, throw water on the fire, whatever you got to do, and also open that cap up so you don't implode. But yeah, I've seen some, well, no, I've seen it explode and implode. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild. But yeah, I've seen them explode and implode. Yeah, and it's sad. I had a buddy of mine, friend that bought him a brand new copper steel, man, a 30-gallon. I think it's 20 or 30-gallon. Good size and expensive. Thousands of dollars. He had invested in it, and his first run, he didn't pull that cap off. They didn't have a uh, vacuum device on there, and it imploded them. We helped him use compressed air and a hammer, and he knocked it out. He did a fine job of getting it blown back out and soldered that little area, and he used compressed air to help blow it back out and hammered it out pretty well. He did a good job on that, but you can still tell, it was dented up, and it was, it's like having that new car, and wrecking it on your test drive or the first day you owned it. It was pretty tough. Yeah, a vacuum release. I wouldn't trust those. It's good to have them on there, just in case. But I'd also have a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch valve, just a ball valve on your cap. Just open it up. They've got them on the bevers. They got 2 little valves on the lid. As soon as you get done, you open those up. You don't have to worry about it. Kegs, I don't know. It's still a concern, but kegs are so damn sturdy. It'd be hard to implode a keg. Not saying you couldn't, but it'd be pretty tough. You'd almost have to try to. But yeah, any cap, any copper, anything soft, anything large, anything thin walled like stainless. Yeah, you definitely want to have some kind of opening up to where you can release that air pressure and release that negative air pressure. Absolutely. Cigarettes, it's you can put a cigarette out in high proof alcohol, and it's not going to do it. If it were hot, if it were boiling alcohol, then yeah, it would probably ignite like that. But it's not that bad. You could probably put a cigarette out in it. Not saying that you should do that, but um, oh yeah. You sound like you might be speaking from experience. That happened to you or something. Uh, but yeah, I mean, if the cigarette were to spark up or something, but just the embers generally not quite the same as an open flame and doesn't burn at the same temperature. But um, not that I would try, but I would say you could probably put a cigarette out in pure grain. But if you took a lighter to it, it'd light right up. Not going to be explosive until you boil it, right? At room temperature, it's not so bad, but after you boil it and it starts emitting gases, and the gases have chance to fill the air and fill the room, and then you can get into an explosive situation. But um, yeah, even the highest of proof, if it's at room temperature, it's not like gasoline. That off gas is so readily and so volatile, and that it would explode like that. Um, but still, you can power a car with it if you tune it. YouTube only displays comments that come from your region. That's interesting. I'm just wondering if some aren't on the militia YouTube and some are on Fieldley's YouTube. That may be what the difference is, and that might be why y'all can't see each other. Is some people may be tuned into the militia YouTube channel, and some people may be on on Philbilly's YouTube channel. And I know on Facebook sometimes it's like that too, but that's why we have this on the screen here. If you can read it, if you're on your phone, it's tough to read, but if you're not, then yeah, on the phone it's tough to read. But if you're on a PC or tablet or something, you should be able to read it okay. There's Miss Tammy. I was wondering about you today. I was thinking about sending you a message earlier. I ain't seen you in a little bit. I was wanting to make sure you was okay and staying warm down there. Hope y'all are doing good. I was thinking about you earlier today. I said I might have sent her a message. I ain't seen her in a few weeks, so I have to check in on them, make sure they're staying warm down there in Gary County. I do. I let mine set until it gets fairly clear, and then I rack off the clears. Kind of like, I mean, I got kind of doing that because of the wine. I was a little bit less picky when I was before my wine started, even 10 years ago when I started doing wines. But now that I'm doing more wines, I've learned a lot more. Yeah, I do my grains the same way. I kind of let them. I'm patient. I'll let it settle out and don't try to rush it. But we'll talk to Alan about that some as well, because you don't want it perfectly clear, getting a little bit of that milky in there, as long as it's not like um, just yeast, right? As long as you're getting some of that in there, adds a little bit of flavor. But yeah, I let mine settle out pretty quickly, and I rack it off. And what I rack off is fairly clear. I mean, it's like milky. It's not like clear water, but it's not got a lot of particles in it, so it's kind of hard to describe unless you see it. It's still kind of milky, but it's cleared. It's not got a lot of particulates, and you can overdo it. It certainly can, and that's one thing. When I talk to Alan, he's like, "Yeah, you know, there's a point where you can let it go too far, and you might lose some flavor, but at the same time, you don't want to have particulates in there that might scorch it. So." Again, experience and knowing just by looking at it. But yeah, that's a good point. So Tuesday when Alan's here, bring that up, John. And ask him, because and I'll try to get a pen, make notes of some of these things. So I want to talk to him too, because one thing that here's the pen at here. One thing I've never really done, except for like vodkas and stuff, is stripping runs. And my always concern is you lose a lot of flavor when you do stripping runs. So what's the whole point in doing stripping runs if it's not a vodka? So we'll get into that as well. Okay, good question. We'll post that to him, and I'd say it's going to be a similar answer. It's not something you want to let get too clear and just wait forever and ever and ever. But at the same time, it's not something that you want to shake it all up and then just siphon it into your still, or put a pump down in there that's stirring everything up. That's it. If you've got a pump that can draw without stirring everything up, that's great. But some pumps, the ones I've tried, kind of kick out stuff as they're drawing it in, and it upsets the yeast bed, and I don't want to get a lot of that in there. So I think there is a happy medium that you can get that will give you the most flavor, but I think you can let it go a little bit too far too long, unlike wine. Now, if it's a wine, I disagree. I would say let it go long enough to where you get a yeast bed, rack it off, and get it away from that yeast bed, because that's going to give your wine a bad flavor. And then in secondary fermentation, more will settle out. Rack that off into another vessel, get rid of that, and you shouldn't have to do it a third time, But if it does settle out more, of course, do it again, because in a wine that's going to age for longer periods of time, then you're going to want to, um, get it off that yeast, because that will give you off flavors. But grains is a little bit different for sure. And your beer makers will talk about sparging, and a lot of times they'll sparge and clean a lot of stuff off when they do their first rack, I guess, and they pull the grain off. But a lot of them will use brew bags. They won't even, you know, they break it down and convert it, and as soon as that's done, they're pulling the grain off, so they don't ferment on grain. So a lot of them won't even ferment it on the grain, and they sparge it. No problem, brother. That's what we're here for. Yeah, 20 proof is about, 10%. That's when, you'll start hitting that sweet water right around that time. And it's good to proof with and use. I mean, the most important part is just getting those tails off and saving a lot of that ethanol. But I do save the sweet water, and I'll proof with it, and then it has some flavor in it. But again, if you're using propane, may not be worth your trouble. It's an extra expense for sure. Yes, sir, we do. Yeah, it's about 18%. I'm not that far behind. And I'm getting further behind as we go. Damn. Yeah, I wouldn't either. Especially if you're going to do grains, I'd be using a daity. But it is good for wintertime fermentations, regardless of what you're doing. Nah, they didn't, but well, they might have. I don't know, but just smoking it from then till now, I watched it progress and get so much stronger. I've watched it go from just regular, brickweed from Mexico to homegrown to Hawaiian, Acapulco Gold, Maui Wowie, all that stuff, Hawaiian Blue, and judge those based on then when the skunk number ones came out, the Northern Lights and a lot of that stuff from the Netherlands, and the increases in THC and the buzz it was pretty significant jump. And then again, in the 2000s and mid to 2010s, saw another pretty significant jump once they started, doing a lot more hybridization. So I could definitely tell the increases in the potency over the years for sure. I'm sorry, I'm getting the answer slow, John. I'm trying to keep up. Yeah, that's temperature. It always happens in the winter. Yeah, I didn't do the computations, but I am. Well, it is something I've been working on doing the calculators. I need to post those links. Um, Found a good place that had a bunch of different ones, and I think it's called Brewer's Friend, or let me see what that's called. Oh, I was looking last time and I couldn't find it. Let's see if this is it. No, this isn't it. Hell. Let me see if I can. I looked the last time, but I couldn't find where I'd saved that. But I did find a place that I'm going to post a link to in the DIY Shine Stuff page. And it has a whole long list of calculators on there. Where the hell is that? Should be close to the bottom because usually the most recently saved are at the bottom, but I'm not seeing it, which makes me think I saved it to a folder. There it went into a folder. Yeah, because it's not down here. But I think it's called Brewer's Friend or something like that. I'll find it again, but I'm gonna post that link for everybody to use. It's a good calculator. Geese. That's funny shit, man. That text to speech. What's going on, Bam Bam? Oh, that's good, brother. How you been? I ain't seen you in a little bit. A festival to plan on. Farm Bottle. That's right over, probably about an hour's drive maybe from you. Wilmington. Yep, not far at all from you, brother. That's the best one up there, close to that and Fillbillies. Fillbilly have one over in Dayton area. So that and the Farm to Bottle, the two best ones to be closest to you, and they're out there in Ohio. But Farm to Bottle's a lot of fun. We tent camp. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, that back set helps a lot. It's a lot of people use it just to help melt the sugar while it's still hot. But also, I'll point out, John, when you do put the back set back into your mash, your prior mash, make sure that it's cooled down, right? So you don't want that heat killing off all your yeast because you can reuse the yeast and it'll be perpetual. So you don't ever have to add any more yeast. You've got nutrients built up with the dead yeast and other stuff, flocculants in there. So just make sure that it's A, not too hot, B, it's not too acidic, and C, doesn't have too much alcohol still in it. So those three things will all kill the yeast off. So if you run it down and get all your alcohol out of there, like I recommend you do anyway in your tails, you really have to do that if you're doing a sour mash, if you're using that back set. If not, then you can just dump it, right? You can go to 80, 90, whatever, like a lot of people do, and just dump it. But if you are using that back set um, for your sour mash, you want to run that liquor on down, or you're going to have to water it down a little bit and lower the proof in there because that high alcohol content will kill your yeast, right? So A, you want to do that. B, you don't want to add too much to where your pH drops too much. So you don't want to get below the fives, right? So You know, adding enough to do that. And then water and sugar is fine, but make sure that A, it doesn't go in there too hot, and B, not too high proof, and then that'll help keep your yeast alive. Yeah, I could get 195, 187 out of my simple one, and that was with just a simple spool column and you know, copper mesh and a deflagrator, whatever. And that wasn't really cold water, so I'm sure I could have cooled the water off, got more reflux, and just let more pure alcohol through, and got it even higher than that. But I could dial it in. I got it to 187 without even hardly trying. So it's not too tough. And you don't primarily, but if you're like making a true vodka or something like that, yeah, it's good for that. Bam Bam on the tube. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bam Bam, I'm behind. I seen your comment. No, I've never made a mash of marijuana, but I've infused marijuana with alcohol and used it to help remove the THC, and then you can let the alcohol evaporate off and leave back. You know, what's left is a resin. That was the old way to make it before they did the. Well, I don't want to talk about that. Might get us banned again or something. But yeah, right, right. And that's why we're talking about um, after if you take out 10% of those grains and add 10% fresh back in, that helps keep that flavor profile of your grains up, Wormy. And also, you have to really be careful how much backset you're adding, because if you get that pH too low, then you start stressing your yeast, and stressed yeast will give off some funky flavors, and you don't want to stress those. So, you know, taking enough backset off, and just record it each time you do it, and if and record your results, and you may have to play with it a little bit based on what size of mash and everything that you're doing. So sometimes, you know, it's you have to balance it out. You'll use a little less backset, a little more water, a little more sugar, less sugar, and try to figure out what the happy medium is. Once you figure that out, you do that every time, and you'll get a good consistent outcome, and it won't stress your yeast out if you keep within the tolerances, right? Keep those pHs in the low fives, and you know, if it's 4.9, it's not the end of the world, but um, somewhere in that range, right? You don't want to be real low, starting out in the threes, because it's just gonna get worse. It's not gonna get any better. So, you know, using that, and see, that's where it gets the sour flavor. Things that are acidic, or you know, like citric acid, that's they use citric acid in a lot of things to make it bitter and sour, right? So the more acidic things are, the more bitter they tend to be, and that's where it gets the sourness from. It's not the corn going sour, the grain going sour, which a lot of people believed was how they did the sour mash back in the day. That's just them thinking that, and it's not actually how it worked. They used fresh grains every time. They just used the back set, and the acidity is what made it seem sour. Right, or if you don't want to use baking soda, you could just use some water and sugar. You know, you just use some water and help bring it up. Water 7.0, usually 7, you know, 6.5 or 7. And you can just use water to help bring it up. You don't have to use the baking soda or pickling lime. Um, but it's something that's not going directly into a mash, so it's not going to have a big, huge impact. But that sodium, the maybe some of the sodium might be retained. So try a pickling lime, or just dilute it with some water and sugar, and help do it that way. And oyster shells for sure. Yeah, and that's it's further away from the more volatiles. John, you'll also notice that airing out some of your alcohol. I don't know if you air it out or have you been airing it out some, but letting the jar stay open for a little while, or putting a little cheesecloth over it, or a paper towel, something just keep the dust and critters and everything out of it. But allowing the volatiles to the higher volatiles to air off and evaporate off. You'll lose a little bit of ethanol, but for the most part, you'll lose more of your higher volatiles that way, and it helps some of those at the higher end. But that's just for drinking the white dog, right? That's just drinking the shine. Now, if you're going to age, you know that little bit in there's not going to be significant, and you'll definitely want to keep some of the get into the tails. That way you can get, like when we're talking about the esterification, and Alan, that's something we'll talk about, esterification, and why low heads and high tails contribute to the flavor. And it is I've seen the chemical processes and the chemical formulations for it and everything. It's pretty complex how it works. It happens over time. So the aging process isn't just about time in a barrel. It's also time allowing all these chemical processes to take place. People think that all the chemical processes just happen immediately and then it's done. It's instantaneous, and it's not that way. Some of these chemical processes take long periods of time. That's like oil in wines. For the wines to develop their flavor, and it takes long periods of time, and there's chemical processes in there that are taking place that create that, the phenols and the flavors, and only time can do that, right? Right, 25%. And it'll vary based on um, how much you're doing, but yeah, you don't need a whole lot, and it's not just going to be pure backset that you're adding. You're going to be adding water, sugar, um, and or cooked grains, fresh grains, and to ferment, just adding backset to that to help lower your pH and adjust your pH and bring that flavor forward. And again, that's why I pull. You pull 10% out and put 10% fresh grains in it each time, and it will definitely stabilize, and you'll get a pretty consistent result. And I'm trying to, and that's not true. No, that's not true. Um, it a shiny steel is more effective at removing sulfites than an oxidized steel that's like a dark penny. But actually, that darkness, that oxidative layer, helps kind of cure the copper and keep it from turning green. Now, if it's green and you start getting the green and the blue, then you got problems. You need to clean that off and keep it free of that. But just an oxidative copper, it's not going to be poisonous at all. Um, but it's not going to remove sulfur to the same extent that a fresh shiny one would. It's better to keep the outside shiny, you know, and pretty looking, and the inside, let it oxidize a little bit. Let it get to, you know, old penny, the way old pennies look, you know, kind of brownish. It's fine. You know, most of these commercial distilleries that have these big, huge copper pots, some might go years before they clean it. Some might, you know, do once a year, but they don't clean it after every run. They'll rinse that sucker out, drain it, and run it again. And as long as you continue to do that, you're not really going to give it a chance to set up and get acidic and get to the point where it starts to create a filigree, I guess, the green, because that's toxic. Now the green stuff, yeah, the green stuff you don't want, but just the old dirty copper, it's fine. That's just oxidized. It's basically, it's just got an oxidized layer to it, kind of like metal rusting, but it's just the way the copper oxidizes. So it's an oxidative layer on there, and it just darkens it, and it's not shiny anymore. And that's not bad at all. Not a problem at all. But the green powder stuff that builds up on there and it build and gets on there, that's a problem. And that's something that you want to clean off. And if you can just clean right where the green is and leave the rest of it alone, that'd probably be beneficial, but it's hard to get in there and just focus on that one spot. So especially like if it's inside your worm or something like that, you know, you're not going to be able to do it. But yeah, it's the greens were definitely toxic. That's what we're here for, brother. You know, that's, you know, a lot of people, like we've talked in the past, you know, a lot of people have to watch days and days of videos to get their questions answered because the videos aren't geared towards your questions. They're geared towards general information about everything. And you'll have to listen to a whole series of a, you know, videos or whatever to get your answer. And that's why I decided that, you know, we need a Q&A. We need somebody up there that can, you know, has experience like Clint and I and Alan and other people, and be able to handle field questions one at a time and give you a good, straight, solid answer based on science and experience. And you don't have to watch, you know, not that you can't get it from George and other people and Cyrus and a lot of these other guys that post, you know, lots of great videos, but it's just, you know, you can get your questions answered immediately instead of having to watch a week's worth of videos to get it right. So I think it helps a lot, and we want to make sure everybody enjoys the hobby and has its safety. Safety is our primary concern. We want everybody to make sure that it's something enjoyable and safe for them, because that's a big concern. You know, a lot of people are like, oh my God, am I going to kill myself? Am I going to poison myself and my buddies if I do this? And it's a legitimate concern. And as long as you follow, you know, some simple, safe guidelines, it can be a safe and enjoyable hobby for you. And I think what he means by black is just darkened copper, and after it oxidizes dark. That's just oxidated copper. And I've seen a lot on the outside of some copper on the bottom, you know, where they didn't adjust their gas properly and had a lot of soot, um, because their gas burners weren't adjusted properly, and they're too much yellow, and they're probably getting a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of soot, and it's inefficient. It's not as hot as it should be, and it's a waste of propane. But you know, yeah, as it sits, it oxidizes, and even as it's used, it oxidizes. But most of these big commercial steels, they don't let them see it. You know, you just keep using that steel, and you won't have to worry about keeping it clean. You just keep using it, using it, using it, and it'll stay just fine. Because every run, you know, you get in there, all that back set slightly acidic, it'll keep all that shit off there, and you dump it, rinse it out, and ready to go again, man. But do just rinse it out each time, and don't ever let back set sit in there overnight for 2 or 3 days before you get around to cleaning it, because that high acidic sitting on it will definitely cause it to turn green on you. I mean, you could actually take that back set and spray it on copper outside that you use for flashing or something, and just let it sit for a few days, see if it don't turn green and filigree. That's why that's how they, age copper for a lot of these, lamps and stuff. They want to look old. Yeah, copper oxide, it's toxic. Any distillate that comes out blue green, don't think, oh, I can just run that again and get that out. No, no, don't. It's becoming cleaner. You can clean your stills with it. If you put it in a bucket, make sure you label do not drink, poison, and you can use that for cleaning, and running through to clean, and then afterward make sure you rinse it real well and run some water through it. But I mean, you can use it for cleaners and cleaning stuff, but I wouldn't use it for cleaning my countertops or cut boards or anything I'm going to eat off of or anything like that. But grass killers, it'd be fine for that. It's fine for, charcoal lighter, it'd probably be fine for that. Right. Yeah. And really to get alcohol fuming, you generally have to get it warmer. But like 190, you put a lighter to it, and it's definitely going to light right up for sure. Flashpoint, yeah. I know. Am I that far behind? 30 minutes. Holy shit, I'm just getting further and further behind. Yeah. Really? Wow. I can't believe I'm that far behind, and that's wild from a cigarette. So 190, 20-liter bucket. Now, was it from lighting the cigarette now, or was it after the cigarette was lit? Because if you lit it and that flame was going, I'd say, yeah, I can see that. A lot of times with the cigarette, just the embers, a lot of times they'll spark too. Sometimes there's chemicals on that tobacco that cause it to spark, and that can do it. But yeah, that's wild, brother. I hope my brows came back. Yeah, it's copper oxide. I'm not sure how you'd unlock them. I mean, let me go to let me check the YouTube page real quick here. I have never done this while I was live. Let's see here. Creating a paradox here or something. Yeah, I don't see. Everybody be sure to hit that like button too. Looking for options here. I just don't see any options. And they were talking about pinning it and doing all this stuff. I don't have those options. And only Philbilly can pin the stuff on his page. I just stream to it. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't see any options for that. Settings. Yeah, I don't want to fool with that because this is Fieldbilly stuff. I don't know. But it seems to work. Everybody's getting it. Yeah, Clint's going to have to get off the phone and get on that PC. I didn't know it was a regional thing. Yeah, that would have to be. I know what you're talking about, John. And they do that for gaming a lot. They use. I'm trying to think of the software that they use to hide their domain so they can get in different lobbies in different countries and stuff and get easy lobbies. That's strange that it's that way, though. You think alive is alive, and everybody be able to see it the same. That's weird. Yeah, we're doing good up here, staying warm and cozy. Good to see you. All right, I'm about to get caught up now. Trying to think of what they use. Let me check it real quick. A VPN, virtual private networking. I didn't even have thought of it as I was typing in the Google question. It's virtual private networking, and they can basically hide their IPs and stuff and where they're located and yeah, I'm not sure. I have to look into that. I've always just assumed everybody can see everything that is being said. I have no idea it's regionalized. That's crazy. Yeah, I've done the Dunder Pit. Yep. Yeah, it gets pretty nasty. But again, it's acidic, so a lot of the bacteria gets killed off. But I mean, I've heard some horror stories, and I've heard about animals get thrown in intentionally for spicing them up a little bit. But I know a dude out in California tried to mock what they do. They can do it in the Bahamas and um, in the islands, where they make a lot of the rum down there. And a dude in California tried to mimic it, and the health department was like, no, this is not acceptable. So let me get some messages. Let's see. Make sure it's not. But yeah, the food safety, no, and I don't know if it was the health department, I guess, said nope. So I think it'd be a little harder to do in America unless you're in an area that just doesn't give a shit. But out there in Cali, that dude said that, he tried to kind of hide it, and they found it, and they were like, absolutely not. But yeah, I've heard some pretty gross things about dunder pits in the Bahamas and in the islands, the Caribbean. But yeah, I did a dunder pit, and it doesn't take long. It goes outside, and it doesn't take much longer. It's buzzing with flies and yellow jackets and everything else. It's just, yeah, pretty gross. Damn, I'm burping up peach from that one. There's some heavy peach. One drink, man, that shit. I'm still burping up peach. I let it all go, man. But it's you can tell by the appearance and the smell, and but it's kind of probably something that most people shouldn't attempt based on that. And I'd say that you would probably want to maybe have somebody with a science biology background being able to test it from time to time to make sure that we're growing some E. coli or something, botulism, and something that could hurt somebody. Um, you don't sparge. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Crazy. All right, I'm gonna get caught up here. Yeah, a little milkiness is fine, absolutely, and there's a lot of flavor in it. So you don't want to get it cleared, and you don't want it just thick like milkshake either, right? So there's a happy medium, and that's where you want it milky, but not clear, and not with a lot of particles and sludgy that can drop to the bottom and scorch on you. So is there an easy way to change your DNS settings on here to, yeah, post that up if there's an easy way for viewers to change it so they don't get regionalized? Absolutely. It'd be something I'd be interested in knowing for some gaming too. Okay, saving the old yeast. Get you some distilled water, and you get your yeast bed from the bottom. Basically, has yeast and dead yeast and flocculants and maybe some grain particulates and other things that's going to be in there. And kind of rinse it with your distilled water. Get all the alcohol off there that you can by just adding liquid, the distilled water to it, shaking it up, let it settle, pour that off, pour some more on there, shake it up, let that settle, pour it off, and then you can keep it alive. Keep it wet, and then we'll get another point. Alan loves to talk about yeast propagation, so we'll talk about that Tuesday as well. Glad you mentioned that. So definitely, you guys got to tune in Tuesday. So Alan does a lot of yeast propagation, and Bam Bam that was on here earlier. He's when I talk about that was sneaking into some of the distilleries and trying to get a little bit of their yeast out of there. We talked about that before. Um, he and I talked about it, and he did that. But yeah, Alan went to some old distilleries and stuff, and got some of their yeast, at their proprietary yeast and stuff from a century ago, right? Some that weren't even there anymore. But whether you realize or not, if you got a specific room in your house that you use to mash in, and you, or your still house, and you mash in your still house often, and you continuously do that, whether you realize it or not, this yeast gets in the air, and it gets like a powder mold. It'll get a lot of the surfaces in that room. And you can literally go in there with a Q-tip or a swab and wipe it and put it on a petri dish, or put it in a jar with some sugars and propagate it and grow it. And yeah, And that's basically what Alan's done. He's gone to a lot of these old distilleries that are not even longer there. And if they still have, mash houses or fence posts, that yeast will still be living wild on a lot of the stuff. And yeah, you can recover that and propagate it. Yeah, you can store it in a jar. Keep the jar maybe loosely screwed on there. Let it gas off, if it's still. But refrigerated should make it go pretty dormant. And every once in a while, bring it out and feed it a little bit of sugar. And they use these things called copper donnas or yeast brinks that are made in stainless steel or a lot of different, stainless or copper is pretty common. And they keep the yeast alive in these things, keep it at a reasonable temperature where it's not too dormant and able to feed it and perpetuate it and grow it and multiply it. And or as long as your mash is still there, if you just got finished mashing in and like we're talking about racking off the juice to distill, you've got that yeast bed and all that there, just dump that on your next one or half of it. You don't even need a bunch of it, just a cupful. And that'll be plenty of yeast and everything in there and nutrients that'll take care of your next fermentation. And you can perpetuate that. But if you don't run them back to back, then yeah, you can rinse them and clean them, get all the liquor off of it, and that'll help keep them alive. You don't want to have that liquor on them. And yeah, you can keep them in the fridge and they'll go dormant. And when you're ready to use them, pull them out, dump them in, and they'll work. Yeah, and if you want to dehydrate it, you could dry it out and save it as a dry yeast, but it's a lot easier just to keep it wet, especially if you're not going to be a long-term thing. Just keep it wet and in a jar in the fridge, and when you're wanting to use it, bring it out and let it, set and naturally warm up. I wouldn't try to take it directly out of the refrigerator and dump it in a mash and expect it to instantly work. Thaw it out, even if it's in a refrigerator. Let it get to room temperature. Yeah, we did when I first started uh, programming. I learned basic programming language in the mid '80s. I guess, well, '84, I guess. And yeah, just with simple basic, it's easy to make a calculator. Input your variables, and boom, it'll output your answer for you pretty quickly. Never made an app, but I'm sure it's probably fairly similar. Be interesting. But yeah, there's a page that has a bunch of calculators. You just enter in gravity, and it'll tell you all these different things. Or yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's a complex. We've talked about that before. There's certain ways that you can stress your yeast to create interesting flavors and some of these off flavors that we talk about sometimes that aren't necessarily off. Yeast can give off good flavors if it's stressed, and it can give off most often bad flavors. So some distillers have developed methods that they can tweak a yeast a little bit a certain way and make it give off some congeners or flavors that aren't necessarily bad, right? But that's not something that, in the beginning, you're not going to want to, oh, I'm going to stress my yeast. I'm just going to do this, and this, and it's not going to end up good. But it's pretty advanced, but there are some ways that you can delicately stress the yeast in specific ways that, like we talked about the cinnamon. Who knows? Maybe, adding cinnamon at a certain point in fermentation might create a certain flavor that might end up being good. I've never experimented with it, but I do know that cinnamon generally, will hurt, damage, or kill yeast. Same with sodium and a lot of other things. So you know, for the most part, beginners and intermediates, we tend to stay away from stressing yeast. Definitely don't want to do it intentionally. We do it enough, by accident. But yeah, there is, once you get to a certain point, yeah, you can actually stress your yeast and get it to create some interesting flavors. We'll ask Alan if he's ever fooled with that. Copper removes the sulfites. Well, most people aren't fermenting, in copper, right? Because it's good. That's not a good vessel to ferment in, because copper also has antimicrobial properties. That's why we use it in our home plumbing. It helps keep the bacteria from building up. So that's why, people use copper pipes, is because it helps keep the bacteria levels down. Um, so it's definitely going to be in its distillation stages. Now, the pot itself boiling is not going to come into contact with a lot of the liquid in there, whereas the vapor coming off does come into contact with quite a bit of the cap, and it refluxes in the cap. So quite a bit of that will come into contact with the copper as a vapor, and as it goes out, the lin arm, that can tapers off. If you got a proper lin arm, that tapers off, that increases the velocity. You'll get some, good contact there as well. And then of course in a worm, you'll have, contact there as well. So in the vapor form, I would say at that stage is where it's going to be removing most of your sulfites. And that's why using the copper mesh works so well as well, is if you're forcing all that vapor through that copper mesh, you're getting a pretty good contact with that as well, if you have enough. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as you can keep it clean and you're not getting that distillate coming off. But again, John, this is why, and a very good reason why a lot of people are tending to shy away from copper these days is A, the maintenance, and B, having to worry and deal with a lot of this copper oxide, and is it really worth it? And now that we know we can use this copper mesh to help remove all these sulfides, the benefit of copper is reduced. Now it's pretty much even heating, and a few other, advantages that it gets, hotter sooner, dissipates heat well, and, a few of those things. And it's great to cook on as well for those purposes, even heating and in our pans and stuff. But it's becoming less and less of a benefit, to it, not just expense, but time is money, and time spent cleaning, especially in the commercial level. Is it really worth it? So these days you're seeing a lot more stainless pots and a lot more copper columns and stainless pots. I've been sick for a while, coming down with something. Man's had something too. But you're seeing a lot more stainless pots these days, and copper columns as a result of that, because now they know that a lot of it's removed in that vapor, and too, it looks nice. But yeah, a lot of home distillers, more and more and more are adopting the stainless. And now that you can use the copper mesh, and again, make sure you get that 100% copper. So I think, Scott, I'm looking at, they're eating some of these. Some of John's taking off, Scott's taking off. Y'all have a good one. I'm sorry I'm far behind. 20 minutes, not too bad. But yeah, that's why a lot of people are adopting stainless a lot more now. The Brillo, anything that has copper, like if it's copper plated steel, no. But if it's just a copper mesh, you know, I'm not sure if the Brillo pads would be a mesh, but there's a lot of copper used in, like Clint and I were talking about, to prevent rodents from getting in. And but if you have 100% pure copper mesh, it comes in a roll, not real expensive, and it does a fine job. But again, don't put this in your half-inch pipes and stuff. This is for people using, you know, tri-clamps and an 1.5 inch, 2 inch spool type stuff. Don't shove this copper in your half-inch pipe and risk clogging it and all that. So this is for people using sight glasses and 1.5 inch, 2 inch spools, not for that. So, and if you have a thumper, I guess you could put that mesh inside the thumper and stretch it across and have it contacting with a lot of your vapor. But if you're using small, like a beverage steel with that small 3/8, half-inch, or 5/8, whatever, don't try to stuff copper in that line. We're talking about big size spools, you know, really large diameter tubing, right? So I don't want to make people get the wrong impression on that. Absolutely. Yeah, stainless is, for hobbyists, it's definitely the way to go. It is a nightmare, and that's a big problem. It's a maintenance issue, and it's time. Time is money, and you know, it's especially for the hobbyist and for somebody that's not doing it all the time. Now, if you're going to run commercially and you're going to run every day, and you've got mash and you're ready to run every day, you can rinse, repeat, and copper and not have to worry about a thing really, because like I said, they can go years without cleaning because it's just being run every day, and this oxidative is things that happen when it's just not being used, right? So you don't get a lot of that green buildup in copper that's used every day. You know, it's the ones that set, or backs that set on it. Yep, that old ketchup, that vinegar, you know, and the tomato acid. Yeah, the galvanic acid. Yeah, I'm building a liquid cooled computer right now. In fact, here's my liquid cooler. Can't wait to get this bad boy on there. I'm gonna clock this thing up. Yeah, it's a Cooler Master. There's my radiator and my CPU. Oh shit! Get that fan done. There's that right there, sits right on the CPU. Copper for good conductivity and heat transfer. That's another good use of copper. But yeah, man, I build PCs too, brother. This is my gaming rig here. I can't believe how much DDR5 RAM is right now. Crazy, crazy, crazy expensive. This all this AI and Bitcoin mining has driven up the video cards and the RAM prices so damn much. It's hard to build a PC anymore, man. But I treated myself and splurged this year. My old gaming rig is getting some age on it. Got me a new 5070 video card. So I'll be jamming soon. So you know what I'm dealing with. Yeah, VPN, virtual private networking. That's what a lot of the gamers use to. I'm behind that far. Damn. That's what a lot of the gamers use to get them easy lobbies. Well, that sucks that people are dealing with that, man. This is America. Why would this freedom of speech, man? I don't understand. I understand why anybody be regional. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily change it. It masks it, so it makes your computer, send out a ping like you're from Russia or Mexico or somewhere else, and you can get on those little easy game. A lot of my buddies do it in gaming. They don't want to play against some of these Chinese hackers and stuff that are using all this hack software, and some of these games are very competitive, and a lot of cheaters. So a lot of them will use VPNs to play in lobbies, in some third world countries where people can't really afford the cheats, right? And use a lot of cheats, and kind of avoid some of that. Yeah, there's some decent VPNs that you can subscribe to. I mean, they're not all free. There's some paid ones that are good, and there's some free ones I'm sure that are fine. All right, we got a corn whiskey mash, cranberry flavored. Awesome. Yeah, you'll be able to smell that alcohol. That sounds good, brother. This next week hopefully you'll be running it or have run it. You can tell us about how it came out. Yeah, yeah, definitely don't want to get botulism, and that's one of the biggest concerns. It's yeah, it's a killer. And there's some ingredients, and we talk about the grains, and I'm trying to think of it. I might have to Google it because my mind's not where it is, but let's see, what's it called? Damn it, they're not telling me what I want to hear. It's a mycotoxin, but yeah, it's be more specific. What's it called? Um, Used to, I could type this stuff in and shit. It's not. It's kind of like smut on a corn, but it's actually very taut. Ergo. I had to be a little more specific in my thing, but ergo, ERGOT, fungus. Read about that. So it helps to know what ergo is in some of your grains. Let's see. I know I took a picture of that and had a picture of that before, and here we go. And this, when you start seeing your wheat or barley or any of your grains, it looks like mouse poop in there, right? On the right side there where it's mixed with the grain. But you can see it on this left one where it's grown into the grain. You think, it's not a big deal, it's just a little rot or it's just got a little bit old there. That's called ergot, and that's extremely, extremely toxic and can kill you. So, and I mean, it killed thousands and tens of thousands of people. Um, and they didn't know about these things, and you see it in your grain on the right. Looks like we got a little mouse poop in there. A little mouse poop never hurt anything. It might feed the yeast. It's not mouse poop. That's ergo, and it can fucking kill you. So if you ever see this on your grain, just call the extension office, and they might have you just burn the field, controlled burn, because that fungus is deadly. It's a mycotoxin, and it will kill you. Um, So it's good to know. And if you ever see that, don't touch it. Don't get around it. It's bad news. And read about it. Ergot, ERGOT. Bad stuff. And that's another thing why we do these things on here, to teach people about these dangerous things. Brother, that's what we're here for. You know, we're here every Tuesday and Saturday if I'm feeling good. And you know, we definitely, you know, want to make the hobby safe and enjoyable, and teach little things like ergo that can kill you, or green copper oxide that can maybe not necessarily kill you, but give you organ damage for sure. So we try to make it a safe hobby, you know, safe hobby for our habit, right? Uh, but yeah, and it makes it enjoyable when you don't have those worries and concerns. You can relax and have a drink and know, hey, this is okay. Other than my liver, I'll be fine. Yeah, between Clint and I, man, we got some pretty well rounded knowledge, you know, as far as science and distilling, and just practical stuff as well, you know, and that's, you know, all comes from experience, and some school education as well. You know, we've learned a lot. Oh, I miss JJ leaving. I think I said that. I'm about caught up though. I'm at 11:05. It's scrolling by. Yeah, definitely come back, John. I hope you ain't left already. If you have, hopefully we'll see you again. We're here again Tuesdays at 8 Eastern, and Saturdays 8 Eastern. So tell your friends, any of your buddies that want to get in the hobby. You know, it's a great place to start. We can, you know, point you in the right direction as far as purchasing a still, and making your first fermentation a pretty easy one, and building up to where you can do all grains and conversions, and we can have you up and going pretty easily, and make an enjoyable hobby. And just like his honey that Mike turned out, he's been doing this a year, and he's been listening to us, and man, he's making some good honey shine. He's been at it about a year, you know, and making good liquor, and his corn liquor was real good. No, it's not the same. I mean, it's going to make it a little bit better than just straight off the tap, right? If you like that smoky, I do. You know, I can take barrel staves and char them up and put them in there, and it improves. Is it as good as a Weller, you know, that I like to drink, or other things that I like? No, it's just not. You know, only time can do that. And time, like we were talking about earlier, the chemical processes that are taking place inside that barrel, you know, as far as esterifications of acids and oils combining to create these flavonoids and polyphenols and phenols, and a lot of different flavors from different, you know, chemical reactions, basically. And then the wood itself, the char and the tannins from the wood, all those combined, you know. And time, you know, you can't. Everybody's tried every which way they can to duplicate that, and you just can't. You know, time has to be time. You know, it's like you can't take a bottle of wine and make it like a, you know, 40-year-old, you know, Bordeaux, you know, wine. It's just, you can't do it. You know, it takes time. You know, you can't make that wine an aged wine just by putting it in a microwave and in a freezer, right? You know, there's so many different ways people have tried to mimic it. I mean, they do everything from adding staves to the liquor adding wood tannins to the liquor, you know, but nothing can replace the true aging process. Oh no. Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. Build me a new gaming rig. You'd be surprised. You know, I hang out with some of the gamers and streamers and stuff, and be surprised old Santa can keep up with a lot of these young whippersnappers on these games, man. I used to be, well, I mean, I was in the top 15 in Europe and America on one game. I was 14th, ranked 14th in pretty much the world. They had a Chinese and an Africa server, and then they had a Europe and the Americas server. So all North America, South America, and all of Europe was on one set of servers, and then all of Asia and Africa were on another set. Medal of Honor. I was ranked 14th in Europe and Americas. So I used to, you know, these days that would make me a millionaire. You know, back in the 90s, nobody gave a fuck. You know, or early 2000s, nobody gave a shit. You know, but by today's standards, I'd be a gaming god. You know, I'd have the streamers go. I'd have a stream going and be making millions of dollars. You know, and streaming and kicking everybody's ass like that. But nowadays, it's, you know, I'm not as good as I used to be, but I can still hang with most of them. But there are a lot of cheaters out there. I'd say that as long as they're not running cheats, I can hang with most of them. But there's still a lot of guys with probably a little quicker reflexes and a little bit better. You know, I watch a couple different streamers and they don't cheat. I can tell if they're cheating. I used to be a senior server admin, you know, for many years, watching for cheaters and banning them. And I can pretty much tell what somebody's thinking and what they're doing, you know. And yeah, it's there's some pretty good talented people out there, you know, that are better than me. Better than me then, I don't know, probably not, but I'm not so quick and I'm not so agile anymore. And you can tell the way I type and I double strike, and you know, I'm not as nimble on the keyboard as I used to be, and I'm not a controller player. I'm a key mouse and keyboard player. So a lot of this aim assist, you know, kind of sucks. It's kind of like aimbot for controllers. But there's a lot of cheating going on, man. And if it wasn't for the cheaters, I'd be ranked too. Yeah, yeah, man. I'm out there kicking ass. I'm kicking butt on there, man. Yep. And Call of Duty, my KD ratio is about a 3.4, which is pretty damn good. You know, it's puts me probably in the top 10%. I mean, I see a lot of decent players in the ones between in the 1.1s to 1.9s and twos. You get over two, you get pretty good. Above three, you're definitely competitive enough to where you could compete on a you know national level. And then you know anything above that, you're either cheating or damn, you're really top notch gamer. Probably you know top 5% for sure. I've seen some that are like that, man. They're just that talented. They're that good. And then there's also a lot of cheaters out there. All right. Yeah, it's almost 11:30. You going to bed, baby? Yeah. All right. Everybody say hi to everybody. Mrs. Santa Claus, say hi. Hi. How you doing? It's late. It's past your bedtime. All right, baby. I'll be up a little bit. Yeah, it's about time for me to get off here too. I'm about caught up though. That happens when everybody leaves, huh? On rise, yes, on rise, wheats, a lot of different grains. It's horrible. Never, never, ever. You see anything like that? You see anything any remotely near that? Don't, because it's deadly. Definitely deadly. Yeah, we can't talk about that, Mike. That's might be what got us banned. Yeah, it's I know that's why we all need to be at sea level, right next to the ocean. Getting that good salt water, man. That salt water is good for your skin. You'd think salt water would be bad for you, man, but it's actually got some Dark Souls. No, I never didn't play Dark Souls. Played Counter Strike. Was a lot. Actually, I played the Medal of Honor before, and had a buddy of mine he was in the top 150. He and I played all the time, and this was for kills, and he was in the top 150 in Asia, or I mean in Europe and America. But once he saw us 14th and he was like 148, he's like, hey, he wanted to play something different. He was competitive. He's an ex-Marine. Me and I played football together, and he couldn't handle it that I was that far better, and I had the bragging rights. So we started getting into Counter Strike, and then I got in with a Family Gamers Alliance clan, and at a server, and played with them, and became an admin and a senior server admin, and it was a lot of fun. I played on Cal League, the Cyber Athletics League, right when it first started back in the early, probably 2003, 2005, somewhere around in there when Orange Box came out. About that time, I was playing Counter Strike and very competitive, ranked, and I've always enjoyed playing games. I've played them since I was a kid. Since the first console ever came out, I had the first Nintendo ever came out, and most of the consoles after that I have. But I guess since the maybe Xbox 360, I haven't had any consoles since then. So it's been a good while. I've been computer gaming mostly, and keyboard and mouse, Counter Strike keyboard and mouse, and then after that, I played a lot of different games: Clancy, Rainbow Six, Battlefield. Played a lot of Battlefield, Call of Duty, Warzone. Medal of Honor was probably my one I played the most early on, but that was early. It was early 2000s. Allied Assault, Pacific Assault in those days. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. And no, my name ain't Bad Santa in the games. I used to be Sir Psycho back in the days when I played the Medal of Honor when I was ranked in the uh, um, Counter Strike. I was Sir Psycho, and then once my daughter was born and she started wanting to play games together, I kind of got away from Sir Psycho. I didn't want some crazy name like that with playing with my daughter on Minecraft. So she and I played Minecraft, and I got away from first person shooters for a while, and played with her. And I became Feral Llama. So if that's a name you see, you should run in fear, right? Unless you're cheaters. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know. That's a good question. I've never really thought about it. Never really paid much attention or noticed it, but I'd say if it's Coke and whiskey, it'd be different. But just like regular whiskey, that's hard to say. I'd say it's, I don't know. I have to give that some deep thought. It may be, where it's actually making pores, right? You know what I'm saying? Where it's kind of melting the ice in small atomic like pores, small areas at first, um, where you have some fizz maybe from the Coke and the acid and the bubbles, you know, giving it a presence where there isn't any, and where his is creating like a very rough pothole, pot mark type surface or something like that. Maybe I just wild guesses, but and maybe that goes away as the carbonation does. I don't know. Yeah, 3.4 is not too shabby for Call of Duty. It's most people are in the 1.0s that are okay, good players. 1.0 to 1.5s and somewhere in there to 2. But 3.4, it's not too shabby. It's not always been that, but it's been that as of recently. Um, yeah, I think it'd be carbonation might be. Yeah, I'd put my baby to bed too. I need to go up and give her a little smoochy smooch before she gets to drifting off into dreamland. Yeah, I have to give some thought. I'm thinking probably it's making it's making it porous basically on the surface, and as it does that, it creates it maybe a white. I'm just trying to think, but I'll give it some thought. Maybe try to replicate that on a nice. Does it matter if it's cold liquor or warm liquor? I wonder if that makes a difference. So is it with Coke? So it's not just the whiskey and ice. It's got to have the Coke in it. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I really enjoy playing it with my daughter. Man, she's absolutely fantastic at it now. She's in her 20s and still plays it. And man, she's awesome. She's real quick at it. It's still a lot of fun. They've added a lot to it too since I quit playing. But um, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's this game she's got going now. Dead by Daylight. She's playing that now, and she's wanting me to play that with her. So I'm gonna have to try that out and see how it works. But I'm really into the FPSs. I like realistic first person shooters. I don't like the Marvel, and all that stuff. I like it realism. I want to case everything out, and you know, I don't slow play either. I do a lot of rushing and stuff, but you have to play tactically. Can't run and gun like the streamers and cheaters do unless you got wall hacks or something. You need to play a little bit more strategically. A lot of people watch how some of these streamers play, and you know, you can see like 15 houses in a little complex, and all of a sudden they go straight to the house that has the people in it. Come on, they know they're there. And it's not a UAV that went up. They didn't have one go up. Nobody's shooting, and they go right for it. There's a lot of cheating going on in the games. A lot. There's a high percentage of people cheating in Call of Duty and Warzone, and now even in Arc Raiders, which I play a lot of Arc Raiders now and really digging it. It's a lot of fun. All right, good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see y'all. We ran way over tonight. We're at 11:30, but definitely far from my longest podcast. I've gone for 8, 10, 12 hours before. So uh, it's good seeing everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend, and we will be back Tuesday night with Alan Bishop. So definitely tune in, be here, be live to ask your questions because it should be a very entertaining episode and hopefully a lot of good questions asked and everybody can enjoy talking to Alan and learn a little bit more about Alan. Good to see Curtis. Everybody have a good night, and we will see you cats on Tuesday at 8 Eastern. Till then, peace out, shine on, and everybody have a great rest of your weekend.